Salt Lake City, Utah. Welcome to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, filling in from now until 2 p.m., which is, of course, when Spence Checketts and the Drive takes over. We got 3 fun hours for you. Happy Friday. Let's put this on the poll, Z-Rob. We didn't discuss this in the pregame discussions. But when are you allowed to say happy day? Like happy Friday, happy Saturday, happy Sunday. That's my favorite day of the week, Sunday. Even the Lord rested on Sunday. I'm not sure how I feel about happy Monday. Happy Tuesday doesn't really make sense. I know OC's favorite day is hump day, which is Wednesday. So happy Wednesday may work. A lot of people like Thursday because it's like weekend eve. Happy Friday, I think, is the most popular. Let's come up with a poll on how we can ask when is it appropriate to say happy day. Or you could just say happy day any day. But I am happy on this day because it's snowing outside. And I know for people that live here, 365, probably not as excited about the snow as I am. But it has snowed one time in my entire 41 years on this planet. It snowed one time in Berkeley. And I believe it made the news. I believe back when newspapers were more relevant than they are today, I believe it was front page news. And so usually, if you live in Berkeley like I spend most of my time, you have to go to Lake Tahoe to get snow. I didn't have to do that. I looked outside, Macaulay Culkin, home alone over at OC's crib, looked outside to just a blanket of snow, and it put a huge smile on my face. Then I came here, and the lady at the front desk, Sarah, I said, "You see the snow out there?" And she just looked at me with like just a evil look, and she just said, "That is the bane of my existence. How could you like snow?"
I feel like when you grow up in Utah, you get to love the snow or you hate the snow. You know,
Yeah.
Growing up in Utah my whole life, I'm like, it's snowing. Great. Like, there's a certain time where I don't want it to snow, like October. Like, when I was playing football, I was like, great,
Yeah.
it's snowing. It's going to be cold, you know? But, like, it's like November. Like, I'm used to it snowing and getting colder. But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
welcome to Utah.
I mean, wake me up if it snows for 6 straight months. Maybe I won't have the same joyful, boyish, kiddish sort of attitude about it. But I certainly was thrilled to see it, and I didn't mind driving in it or walking from the car to here. But I could understand how it might get, might not be something that you're so happy about if you get it over and over and over again. But for me, I hadn't had anything. There hadn't been any precipitation all week. And I woke up to some snow. So I'm happy about that. And maybe if you feel bad about snow, maybe I changed your mind just a little bit, just to know that some people don't have snow ever. So for some people, it's great. Appreciate the snow on this day.
Yeah, when you've grown up in Utah your whole life, like I grew up in Park City, which is a ski town.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much more snow up there, and it can be a pain to drive in, but it's fun at the same time because you're like swerving and you're like feel like you're in a race car or a drift car sometimes. But it's dangerous, but I kind of like it sometimes.
Yeah, no, it put a big fat smile on my face. That voice that you hear behind the glass is Z-Rob. It is another Zach takeover, Zakariah and Z-Rob. Again, we got you for 3 hours. We got some great guests for you. You can always participate. Actually, I'll throw the poll question out, and then I'll tell you how you can participate. So the poll question, yesterday, 2 big pieces of news. Number one, Utah basically strong-armed robbery New Mexico, taking the offensive coordinator and the quarterback. And then, of course, Nick Saban. Kind of shocking the world as you learn more about what exactly he did this past year, because you probably only saw him doing ESPN hits, but he was also spending a lot of time with his son up in Washington. And so it makes a little bit more sense that he was thinking about this for a while. And then I talked about how the father-son bond is one that you can't really put words to. And his father coached at North Carolina.
You mean Belichick? Not
Belichick,
Saban.
sorry. What did I say?
Saban.
Yeah, Saban, Belichick, same thing. One's the greatest NFL coach of all time. One's the greatest college coach. But yes, thank you for correcting me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Bill Belichick going to North Carolina. He even brought a sweatshirt. That was his father's sweatshirt. And I saw some jokes on the internet because the internet can be cruel. That sweatshirt's older than your girlfriend. Google it if you don't know that Belichick's dating a woman like a third of his age. Anyways.
It's weird.
the question that I thought, because we like to start off every show relating it to the Utes, right? Utah football is king here. Even probably, wouldn't you say, over the Jazz? I mean, definitely the hockey club they just got here. Real Salt Lake over them too, right? I mean, Utah football is probably king.
Yeah,
here.
No, it definitely is.
So,
And
yeah, go ahead.
it definitely is. And, with the recent news with Devin Dampier coming in, and now we have the transfer portal open, it's a big week, especially. And one of my buddies was like raving on and on about Devin Dampier from New Mexico when he was still playing with New Mexico.
Nice.
And he was like, he saw the news, and he's like, you better tell everybody on air that I was literally telling everyone about how good this guy is.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you go and look up his highlights, and you can do it on YouTube, several articles that you will read if you just Google his name, they will have clips of his highlight reel, and it's phenomenal. Now, granted, anybody can look great in a highlight reel, and you need to watch an entire game to really, have your formed opinion on the guy. But just some of the stuff that he's capable of doing, you've got to be excited because it's unlike, anything that Utah has seen probably. I mean, a little bit when Cam was at his peak, but even Cam could not run like this guy. Alex Smith ran a lot, but again, he's not known for being that mobile. Anyways, lots of reasons to get excited about that. But when I was thinking about Belichick going to Utah, I thought to myself, okay, what about this scenario? And this is what I throw out to you Ute fans on this gorgeous, snowy Friday. What if Kyle Whittingham said, you know what? I'm riding off into the sunset. I'm getting older. I don't have the passion. Past couple of years haven't gone well. I'm not fit for the job anymore. And let's say that he stepped down. This is all hypothetical, but I'm just curious. Let's say that Coach Witt stepped down and the Utes were in conversation with Bill Belichick. Let's say he was still a free agent, hadn't gone to North Carolina. You as Ute fans, you people, what the bleep you mean, you people, how would you feel about that? Would you want him to be the replacement? Now, obviously, that there's a coach in waiting. So that's not going to happen with Scally. So this is all hypothetical, but I'm just curious how Ute fans feel. So the simple poll question is, if Coach Witt stepped down and Bill Belichick was still a free agent, would you have wanted him as coach of the Utes? And your options are no, 0 college football experience, or B, yes, give me the GOAT, as many people think he's the greatest football. I mean, definitely NFL, but if you just take it all in general, NFL is above college. Saban's the greatest college football coach. Belichick, the greatest NFL coach, and NFL is higher than college, so he's considered the greatest football coach of all time. So you can vote on that on Twitter or X, depending on how old you are. I don't think I'm ever going to stop saying Twitter because I don't know how you say, you post a tweet on Twitter, right? You tweet. What are you doing with X? You're Xing? I X'd something? Anyways, on Twitter, you can vote. The poll should be up at ESPN.
It's up.
At ESPN 700 is where you can vote. And then in the commercial break, I will retweet it. I'm at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. If Coach Witt stepped down and Bill Belichick was showing interest in Utah, would you have wanted him as coach of the Utes? No too old, 0 college football experience, like my bro too, Chad, out in Michigan, who's the only North Carolina fan that I know other than my pop too, Cornelius. My bro too, Chad, does not want him. He says, look, he's never recruited. He has no college football experience. He's 70 whatever years old. He doesn't want him. I was shocked. I was floored. I thought he would have been jumping through the roof. But he was not. So maybe this poll is going to be closer to 50-50 than I think. But your options are no, he's too old, 0 college football experience, or B, yes, give me the GOAT. For me, if I'm a North Carolina football fan and my school is known for basketball, where else can I go as a football program but up with Bill Belichick stepping in?
Well, I mean, we look at Deion Sanders when he joined Colorado. The basketball program was doing really well, and they still are. But we look at Deion Sanders coming into Colorado, and he has lifted that program up.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Granted, he's got a lot more charisma, and he had time playing baseball and football, but won Super Bowls in the NFL. He's, I think he's closer I know he's closer in age to a lot of the guys that he's recruiting, and he's certainly more hip, if you want to use an old school term. So his recruiting is probably going to go a lot easier than Belichick, but Belichick has the pedigree, plain and simple. So I just wonder if Ute fans would have wanted him. Again, all hypothetical. Belichick's in North Carolina. Coach Witt's coming back to the University of Utah. But I'm just curious how the Ute fan base feels. So, again, vote on that at ESPN 700. I'll retweet it at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. And then, as always, you can text in on the Dish Pros text line, 877-353-0700. You can also call in. Don't be shy. OC is a big proponent of taking phone calls. I like for you guys to sound off as well, 877-353-0700. So that is your opening segment, and the opening segment of the Sean O'Connell Show is brought to you by Alvy Armani. If you are having hair issues, gentlemen or ladies, maybe it's just thinning more than you'd like, kind of like me, let Alvy Armani help you out. Find them online at alvyarmani.com and tell them ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM sent you. There was a football game last night, if you want to call it that, Z-Rob.
That was not fun to watch.
I'm in the fantasy playoffs, and I'm not going to don't worry, don't change the dial. I know that nobody cares about your fantasy football team. But I'm in the fantasy playoffs, and I would not have started Juwan Jennings if I had known that it was going to be a monsoon in Santa Clara.
That's what my buddy did last night. He's like, oh, Juwan Jennings just lost me my game.
Yeah. Well, it's not over until the – Can you even say the fat lady sings anymore, or has that been canceled?
I think it's been canceled.
Well, okay.
Not sure.
It's okay. It ain't over till it's over. How's that?
There you go.
But yeah, it was a monsoon in San Francisco, and it's been well documented that Brock Purdy, does not play well. He has small hands, or he does really bad when it's raining. And I know most quarterbacks, if it's hard to grip the ball, are not going to do as well as when it's in pristine conditions. But something about Brock Purdy specifically, when it's raining, he's worse than, like, his drop-off is bigger than other quarterbacks. And he didn't look good. He threw a pick, no touchdowns. It was a field goal game. And it pretty much took out OC's Niners. He's probably happy that he's on his cruise and he's not, he wasn't here. I wonder, do you get TV on cruises?
You can, but I don't know if you got the game, though. I mean,
Well,
he might have streamed it.
he's in Europe.
He might have streamed it, though.
Oh, yeah. He's got the internet.
Yeah,
So,
he's got the internet.
He probably streamed it.
Probably.
So that probably put him in a bad mood. I don't know what the time difference is over there, so hopefully he didn't stay up
It's a good
too late
8 or 9 hours.
or wake up too early to watch that, because it was an ugly, ugly game. And that wasn't even the main headline that came out of it. I mean, obviously, the Niners, who have been to the NFC Championship game, it feels like 4 out of the last 5 years, lost in the Super Bowl twice to the Chiefs, and then they lost to the Eagles when Brock got hurt, and they lost to the Rams when the Rams won it all. So that was a big part of the storyline, that the Niners are essentially, I think they're mathematically still in it, but they're essentially out of it. However, the main story out of it, and I can't, the only other instance I can remember that was like this was when Antonio Brown lost his mind when he was with the Jets. And I think he took his jersey. He took everything off.
He was on Tampa, wasn't he?
Oh, Tampa. You're right.
Because that was when Brady was still the quarterback.
Yeah. He was on Tampa, and there was something about playing time. I don't know exactly what the reasoning was, but he lost his mind because, I don't know if it's CTE or whatever, but that guy's been crazy ever since Burfict lit him up over the middle numerous times from his days in Pittsburgh. But it's the last time I can remember a guy just quitting on the team. And who I'm talking about, of course, is Devondre Campbell, linebacker for the Niners. Dre Greenlaw came back after that horrific Achilles injury in the Super Bowl. And he came out of the game because of his knee. And essentially, from everything that you've heard, Devondre Campbell just told Coach Shanahan, I ain't going in. And then eventually, in the middle of the third quarter, you see him traveling to the locker room. Just bizarre.
That is bizarre. And I don't appreciate players quitting on their team. You know?
No. I mean, that would be like at 12:30. I go up to you, Z-Rob, 12:30. You know, we do the first segment of the noon hour. 12:30, I just pack my stuff up. I'm out.
Z-Rob's running the show now.
Are you sick? No, I'm not sick. Is there an emergency? No emergency. I'm just out. I don't feel like doing the second half of the show. Very, very bad look. And I was watching Get Up, as we are an ESPN affiliate. I was watching ESPN this morning. And let's hear from Ryan Clark, who, look, us as fans, we can look at it and go, that's a bad look. Shouldn't do that. Coaches, obviously, take it more seriously than the fans. The GM, the ownership. But the people that take it the most serious are the players. They often talk about how being in the NFL as a player is a brotherhood. It's a fraternity. It's a kinship.
I like to think about it as a family, too. You know?
Yeah.
My old high school coach, Coach Monzingo, was always preaching about, like, this is your brothers, this is your, second family. You know? You can't just bail out on your family.
Yeah. And, you know, I saw that there's a couple of guys that are not going to play in their bowl games, and they put out statements kind of explaining that. And I had Herm on earlier in the week. It was either Tuesday or Wednesday. Doesn't matter.
Probably Wednesday because I don't remember calling him.
Okay, yeah, Wednesday. Yeah, it was at the dealership on Wednesday. And I asked Herm about it, and he said that he dealt with that when he was coaching at Arizona, and he says that he sees both sides. Because I told him, normally I have an opinion on everything.
Mm-hmm.
I very, very, very rarely do I not have a strong opinion on something. But this is one where I'm really torn because part of me says, you're on the team, you've been practicing with these guys throughout camp, all the practices throughout the week, game day. This is, as you said, this is your family. It's not your blood family, but it's your family in terms of you probably spend more time with them than you actually do with your real family.
Exactly. And like, back to my point is, like, you make relationships with these guys, your coaches, your training staff, all that stuff, you know, and just bailing out on them is just
but then the other side of it is I can understand how if you're a guy that's going to get drafted in, let's say, the second round or the first round, and then you tear your knee or whatever. It happened to
J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah. Well, no, he did that after he got drafted. I'm thinking of the Lions wide receiver, Jameson Williams. He got injured in one of the bowl games, and he would have been drafted a lot higher than he was. And then I believe he missed his whole rookie year for the Lions, and he would have been drafted a lot higher, which, if you know anything about the draft, the higher you get drafted, the more money you make. You're slotted into these contracts. So I can understand why players would go, why would I go out there if it's not a playoff game and I don't have a chance of winning a championship? Why would I go out there and risk getting injured and cost myself millions of dollars because I'm drafted way later than I would have been if I hadn't gotten hurt? And Herm kind of agreed with me. He can see both sides. He just said that what he asked for his players, because he was fortunate enough to be in bowl games, that he asked from his players, okay, if you're going to do that, I wish you wouldn't, but I understand it. But tell me, and you're going to practice, and you're going to be on the sideline for the games supporting your teammates, which I thought, because Herm is the guy that I go to for everything. He's a very knowledgeable man full of wisdom, and I thought that was a perfect sort of compromise. I think he did also kind of lean more in my direction, that he would not only want the players to play, but he would play if he was in that situation, which is kind of what I think I would do. But he could also see why some guys would sit it out. But my point is, the two guys that so far that I've seen that are sitting out bowl games, when they put their statement out on Twitter, said to all my teammates, you're not just my teammates, you're my family. And, you know, basically apologizing for not going out there or whatever. And, like, you know, even though I won't be with you on the sidelines, you know, I'll you know, or even though I won't be on the field with you, you guys will always be a part of my life, blah, 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 blah. So my point is, as fans, we can get irritated by it, by something that Devondre Campbell did. Coaches, GMs, ownership, I totally understand it. But the players are the ones that take it the most seriously. And Ryan Clark, I didn't want to play a full 2-minute clip, so we shortened it down. But what he says before the clip that I'm about to play is that it's especially irritating for guys like him who were not top 10 picks or were not even drafted in the first round, or in some cases not drafted at all. Guys that were getting cut from teams or weren't getting big free agent opportunities. To see a guy waste an opportunity like that and leave in the middle of a game, and it wasn't a blowout one way or the other. The game wasn't decided. The Niners weren't up a ton and they weren't down a ton. And your brothers needed you because Dre Greenlaw needed to go out, not because of the Achilles, but as oftentimes as you see with Achilles, when you hurt your Achilles, other parts of your body you put more strain on, so then other parts of your body, in this instance, his knee, you can start to put more of a strain on, and then those parts of your body gets hurt. And then also D. Winters was dealing with a neck injury, so they needed him, and he just didn't go in. And the players, look, I'll get to what some of the Niners said, his actual teammates. Some declined to comment because they didn't even know that it happened. It literally happened in the middle of the third quarter. And I'm guessing if you're on the team, you're just assuming he got hurt and he's going back to the locker room. No, he was fine to play. He just said he didn't feel like playing. Quote from Coach Shanahan, he said he didn't want to play today, end quote. So some of the guys, most notably a name that you would know, a household name, and George Kittle sounded off on it. But just to give you an idea of how much this means to the players and how offended they get by actions like this, let's hear from former safety Ryan Clark for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's hear what he had to say about it.
On again, stand up for your team.
Can I just say one more thing on this quickly, because I want to make sure I get you to the right place here. The circumstances are what the circumstances are. The circumstances also don't have to make a damn bit of difference. He was an NFL player on a roster who dressed for the game, and then when his team needed him, didn't go in. Does all the rest of it make any difference?
In my opinion, as a brotherhood, he should never play again.
Yeah, no,
ever again? Ever again?
Ever.
Why would you want him on your team?
So you go.
That's about as strong as you can get, because you will not see players in the fraternity, as they say that another player should never play. They are normally on the player's side. When Ryan Clark comes out and says that shows you how seriously they take that. I'm over here on Instagram Live. Follow me on Instagram at 11ZAK11. And my guy Kenny Kong, who used to coach varsity high school football. He's got a couple of players that are in the NFL. He said, and he's a coach, he said, quote, "You suit up, you play. You don't want to play, don't suit up. Our team deserves professionalism. Guys wanting to play can't get activated and watch you trick it off, weak." And that's coming from a former coach. That's something I hadn't even thought about. Think about the guys that didn't suit up that would have wanted to play. I didn't even think about that. He took a spot from a guy. If you're not going to play, don't suit up.
It's like a JV varsity thing too.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
That's the way I think about it.
I mean, I was just thinking about it in the moment. You know, I was just thinking about it like that. I hadn't even thought about the fact that that's taken up a roster spot.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what, guy that's on the practice team or whatever, however far down the ladder you got to go. But there could have been somebody that warmed up, suited up, and was ready to go in when guys fell down. So, anyways, that was the major news from last night. Obviously, it depends on what team you root for. If you're a Niners fan, the biggest news is that you lost the game. If you're an NFC West fan, you're happy that actually, I don't even know. They were probably rooting for the Niners. If you're a Seahawk or a Cardinal fan, you were probably rooting for the Niners so that the Rams record got closer to the Niners.
Because it goes Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals, Niners, I believe.
Yeah.
Is the rankings in the NFC West right now.
But, I mean, the biggest story was that you don't often see. Can you think of another example outside of Antonio Brown that did something like Devondre Campbell did?
I'm trying to think.
Last night?
No. I'm trying to think.
I feel like it's happened in basketball.
Yeah.
Like guys will just pout and not go in.
Mm-hmm.
But like going to the locker room and just, I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know if the news has come down. I've been prepping for the show, so I haven't seen any breaking news. But basically everybody was talking about it like he's going to get cut. I mean, there's no way you can go back into the locker room after that. And I don't know who's going to take a look at him. I mean, maybe he'll come out with some explanation, but I don't think that you're going to be able to have an explanation for that.
Yeah, not at all. And you can't get traded either because the deadline was a month ago.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's either you get practice squatted or you get cut. And you get replaced.
And the question is whether or not somebody's going to bring him into camp. I mean, maybe he comes in hat in hand, says, look, I was butthurt that I didn't get a lot of playing time in the first half, and, it was totally wrong of me. I was just in the moment, and I should have never done that. I apologize to my teammates and the coaching staff and everybody in the Niners organization. Maybe he comes hat in hand and somebody gives him a flyer. Lord knows America is the land of second chances.
Right.
People have gotten second chances for worse.
Yeah, and I remember instances like CeeDee Lamb sitting out until he got paid. Jamar Chase was supposed to be getting paid, and now he's not.
Yeah,
by the Cincinnati Bengals. So
well, contracts are something totally separate, in my opinion.
Yeah,
but
I'm just it's kind of a comparison, but not really a comparison.
No, I mean guys hold out for contracts all the time. There's countless examples of that. I'm talking about mid-game.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean.
Yeah.
So there's that. And, again, I'll get into some of the Niners quotes because, boy, they did not hold back. I mean, you thought Ryan Clark was upset? Think about his teammates. And so I'll read some of the quotes. Maybe we'll get some audio a little bit later in the show. And then, of course, the poll question, if Coach Witt, hypothetically, of course, if he had stepped down and Bill Belichick was still a free agent, would you have wanted him as coach of the Utes? I'm very interested to see how this poll comes back. Your options are no, he's too old, zero college football experience, or B, yes, give me the GOAT. Bring him on in. I wonder how Bill would have fit in Salt Lake. I feel like he might have fit. Anyways, our show today and every day is brought to you by Les Schwab Tires. Les Schwab has the tires, wheels, and accessories for whatever you drive. Stop by your local Les Schwab today, and their professionals will get the job right the first time. Coming up, bottom of the hour, Andrea Urban, Fox Sports 13 reporter. We'll talk all things Utah sports with her coming up at the bottom of the hour. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah filling in right here, ESPN 700. Welcome back to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah filling in right here, ESPN 700. Coming up at about 11:45, 11:50. It doesn't matter. They both start with an F. It's fun in the 40s or the 50s. That's where I go around the wacky world of sports. Let this be a lesson to anybody out there with season tickets to their favorite team. Be careful with your behavior because something that you don't want to happen might happen to you. So that's my tease for fun in the 40s and the 50s. But right now, it is a pleasure to be joined by Andrea Urban, Fox Sports 13 reporter. She can cover everything. I'm hoping that's what it looks like from her feed. She was also 2023's Utah Sportcaster of the Year. Follow her on Twitter at Andrea Urban TV. Andrea, how are you?
Hi, good, Zakariah. Thank you for having me on today.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. Let's start with the Utah Hockey Club. I did basically a whole hour on the Utah Hockey Club yesterday, and a lot of the narrative was this was a measuring stick game. I don't know about you, but I love cliches like that. But it was a measuring stick game against a team that is very close in standings. The Colorado Avalanche Hockey Club, a 4-1 win. That's a pretty sound win, Andrea. What did you make of the game last night?
Yeah, I really like. So what was funny is actually all their parents got to be there and maybe called them their mentors. They brought family along for this road trip, and a lot of them said that the win was fueled by having their moms and dads and brothers and sisters in the stands. And honestly, I believe it because I know when my parents are tuning into the TV, I'm like, okay, I'll flip this in or do this or whatever. But here's the thing: Utah Hockey Club would be on a 4-game win streak right now if it wasn't for a shootout. And I still haven't quite decided how I feel about shootouts quite yet, because they took the Wild, one of the best teams in the NHL, to a 4-3 lead and then kind of slipped up late there and they tied that game. Could have been their game to win, but they lost in a shootout. And I just think, when you lose such a high-quality game that kind of way, you're going to show up at the next game. And they did exactly that against Colorado, like you said, a fellow conference member, and they beat them soundly. And it's so fun to see because when this team is rolling, they're rolling. And I also have been saying this lately too. Dylan Gunther needs to continue to find the back of the net. Now I know that you've got lots of scorers for Utah that can do that, but he's kind of been, a couple games where he hasn't been scoring, and I've been waiting. I thought the other night when Clayton Keller scored, and usually Gunther had a couple teed-up shots, and it looked good, but it seemed to be Clayton who was getting fancy with it. So I kept leaning over to my coworker saying, I'm waiting for Gunther. I'm waiting for Gunther. And, man, did Gunther show up, and that's exactly what they needed to do there.
Now, it's not quite mid-season, but it's not the beginning of the season either. So with the amount of, couple of months in, based on what you thought, obviously the first year, the NHL here, and you have to deal with that whole expansion thing, even though it was kind of just moving the Coyotes over to Utah. But in terms of what your expectations were going in, all the research that you did and learning about the players that they brought in, do you feel like they're at where you thought they would be, or are they a little higher or a little lower?
Honestly, for me, they're exceeding my expectations because, and this isn't a jab at anyone else, but I thought it was going to be a Jazz season of 5 wins. I really did. But the difference in hockey is that you really can win on any given night. Like, that's the beauty of hyping up a crowd inside a hockey arena, is that you really can find the back of the net within the next 45 seconds. When you're down by 20 in an NBA game, it's like, ugh. So what I love about the hockey overall in the NHL is that it's true. Any team can win on any given night, and I think we're seeing that with Hockey Club. But you know what I'm also seeing is that these guys feel the love, and they're feeling very settled in Utah. Like, I asked one of their, guys within the organization, I was like, so looking at this arena, I'm like, does this is this better than what they were doing? Like, is this pretty great? And they said, are you kidding me? This is monster times better, and players feel that, like the fans showing up, the capacity, just even they don't even have a practice facility yet, and the oval's even better. And so it's like all these things have been met. And when I spoke to Jim Olson, the president of Utah Jazz, he was saying that they asked the hockey team, what are the most important things that you guys need? And those guys listed that off. And then they said, okay, check. And some of the things that they thought that the players were going to want, they said, oh, no, that's not important to us. So I think the communication has been there from the beginning, which has allowed these guys to get settled in a brand new place. And then, the fan base is here. We love hard when we want to love hard. And I think they're feeling that, which is leading to some success here.
Talking with Andrea Urban, Fox Sports 13 reporter right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah filling in, ESPN 700. I'm going to go all over the board with you. So I want to ask you about A.J. DiBonsa. What a big pickup. I don't know about you, but I was going about my morning, getting ready to, come to the studio and do the show. And, I'm listening in the background, but I'm not paying attention all the way. Sometimes like back when you were in school and you're tired, you're listening to the professor, but you're not really soaking it all in. But I heard BYU. Yeah. I heard BYU and I heard #1 basketball college recruit. And I was like, what? What? And look, I know we're in Ute country, closer to here. Not so much BYU, but what a pickup for BYU. What was your reaction when you heard the news?
Yeah. My day that day was filled with driving down to Provo. I actually caught up with Chamberlain Burgess, which he's in the same signing class, and he's at Orem High. So I went over to Orem High and talked to Chamberlain and got his reaction on AJ picking BYU, and they won't play with each other because Chamberlain's going to go on a mission. But it's just this kid's in your recruiting class. Like, what does that mean to you? And then I went over to BYU and did a little report, and then came back for the hockey game. So I was down in Utah County, and I felt the energy. And you know what? It's the game is changing. First, I'm not going to throw. The game is changing in the retrospect that these guys are looking for that NBA pro experience. Like Chamberlain said the same thing to me. He's like, we all want to play pro, and Kevin Young has been in the pros before. His whole staff is pros, from the training staff, athletic training, so on and so forth. And he's like, that's what we want to feel like. Now, an NIL is very real, and so even just taking that out of it, though, I do think – because I'm also thinking, as someone who maybe isn't LDS or isn't from Utah, or I know he's playing right now with Utah Prep, and he plays tomorrow, actually. I'm going to go see if I can catch his game. But it's just so cool to, I don't know, see other college basketball schools getting opportunities. I didn't go to Utah or BYU, so I don't have a bone to pick here with either of these options for him. But I just am excited that not everybody has to go to Duke, and not everybody has to go to Kansas, and that, other college basketball teams can compete. And I think Kevin Young, even though he has not even, it's his first season, they're showing good things, and whatever he's preaching is working, and it's putting Utah, BYU, even just the football season that they had, on the map. And I have people from all over the country reaching out to me, like, what's it like covering these people? And I'm just so excited to be a part of that. It made the Big 12 a little bit more interesting, that's for sure.
I don't know how much of a chance you've had to get familiar with the new quarterback, Devon Dampier, and obviously Coach Beck coming in as the offensive coordinator. But from what I've read, and obviously the stats speak for themselves, but also the highlight reels that I've seen of his play on the field, it's unlike what you've seen out of a Utah offense for a long time. What did you make about not only Coach Witt coming back, but being willing to totally sort of revamp the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, and I think that we needed that. And I say we just because I cover these teams so often. They needed that. Like, I think they were kind of, I don't know how to, I guess, like drowning a little bit, like reaching for how can we put the life jacket on and survive this season? And it always seemed to be the defense that was saving the day. And, and year after year and season after season, they've put their hopes and dreams into certain players, and things happen. But if Coach Witt is going to stay, which he is, the offense needed the revamp, no, without a doubt. And, I haven't had a chance to dive too deep on the new quarterback from New Mexico, but I have seen clips. And his athletic, he seems to be like a true athlete. Like, yes, you can be an athlete in basketball and football and all these things, but the way he moves is a true athletic human being, which excites me because then that means that there can be new plays drawn up and new strategies and new ways of doing things where we're confused by this new stud who can move the ball a little bit differently. And so I'm looking forward to it. And I especially think that, maybe these new offensive coordinators and wide receivers and running backs coaches, maybe they can also teach Witt something that they're seeing and that they're learning. Because, Witt's been here for now going into his 21st season. And after a while, you got to get some new eyes on this game. And I'm looking forward to seeing kind of what works out there.
I hate to get you out of here on a down note, but I will be in the building tonight for Jazz Suns. One of those seasons where I don't even know if Jazz fans really want them to be sort of mediocre or sort of flirting with the play-in spot. I think everybody wants Cooper Flagg or at least a high draft pick. So for the Jazz, I think if you're a Jazz fan, you're just looking for some hope for the future. What have you made from what you've seen thus far, and what hope can you give any of the Jazz fans out there in terms of these guys will be a part of your future?
Yeah. I think if we take a look back a couple games ago when the Jazz had, we're going to call it a fluke game only because they dropped 9 players dropped double figures, and they beat the Trailblazers by over 40 points. And it was Johnny Juzang with 22 off the bench, and it just seemed like everybody was rolling. And even Will Hardy kind of laughed a little bit. He's like, man, when we're on. And I know that Keontae George has been wishy-washy as well with his, the nights he's on, the nights he's off. But right now, who's standing out to me, he's also dealing with an injury, is I love what Kyle Filipowski is bringing to the table. I think it's someone that, not everyone was sure how he was going to fit in quite exactly. He also seems to be reliable, learning his body is changing in an NBA way that gives me confidence in the future of our big guys. And, we talked about, I've talked about Walker Kessler's sophomore slump, and I think we're seeing a big elevation in Kess and his confidence in playing. What scares me is I don't know how long Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson may be on the Jazz roster because they are such studs. I'm not sure what those changes will look like, but those two are my other favorite guys who, at least Colin for sure, you can feel when Young Bull is on the court, and that energy is there. And if we can keep him a Jazzman for a long time, I would support that. But as for some young talent, it's definitely Filipowski, Kessler, and George for me.
Andrea Urban, Fox Sports 13 reporter. Thank you so much for joining me, Andrea, and enjoy your weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
There you go. Yeah, you got to be a glass half full guy. And I don't know why I always say guy like John Gruden, but I just do. You got to be a glass half full guy, not a glass half empty guy. And so you got to find your little spots. You pick your spots where you can feel positive about the Jazz. But I'm looking forward to going to my first game at the Delta Center.
Guess what?
What's up?
You might meet Andrea too. She's the in-arena host as well.
Oh, like the person that we're here with.
Yep.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I was so mad when I came down here. I forget how many months ago, but a few months ago I came down here for a sales party, and I was just Googling stuff about the Utah Hockey Club, and I came across this article that said, we're looking for an in-game host for the Utah Hockey Club. So here's 3 scripts, record them and send them to this email address. And then I went to go pull it up, and it said it's already been filled.
Yeah, they were on top of it.
I would have loved to have done that.
You as an in-arena host for the hockey club?
I'd be pretty good.
I think you would be too, actually.
I mean, a lot of people call me a clown in a bad way, but you kind of want clownish behavior when you need somebody animated. You know what I mean?
That's literally the both of us. Literally.
Yeah, just 2 peas in a pod, without a doubt. All right, coming up next, fun in the 40s, fun in the 50s. Again, be careful. If you have season tickets to your favorite team, you have to realize that they can be taken away from you. I will tell you who, what team, what person, and what reason for why this happened. All that coming up next. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah filling in right here, ESPN 700. Yeah. Shout out to my guy Z-Rob for playing this rejoiner music as Snoop Doggy Dogg as he used to be. He's now Snoop Dogg. I think he was Snoop Lion at one point as well. Put out a new album today, and he's one of my favorite rappers, so I will be listening to that. I listened to it a little bit before the show started. I'll be listening to it a lot when the show is over, getting ready for the Jazz Suns game that I'm going to be going to. Welcome on back. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, holding it down for him right here, ESPN 700. Coming up at the top of the hour, it's time to get smarter again about the sports that you love nearly and dearly. We will speak with Sarah Todd, Deseret News Utah Jazz beat writer. Just what is going to be in store. I believe more bad news for the Jazz. Well, good news depending on whether or not you're already rooting for them to tankathon, as I believe Kevin Durant is going to be returning from his injury tonight for the Phoenix Suns. So we'll talk to her about that and much, much more. And, of course, we will reset the polls, talk a little bit more about the news from yesterday as we begin hour number 2, the PM portion of your day. But right now it's time for fun in the 40s, fun in the 50s, whatever you want to call it. Yesterday is going to be impossible to top as we had Xavier Leggett explaining to you why the place that he's from in the South, they eat raccoon. Full-blown raccoon. He was on a podcast with Amon St. Brown, the star wide receiver, and his brother from the Lions. And Amon wanted clarification. He goes, what do you mean raccoon? He goes, like the ones that you see in a trash can or a dumpster. A raccoon. He says, I kill it. He says, I trap it, I kill it, I skin it, I cook it, I eat it. Full-blown raccoon. You know what? Z-Rob, we might have to play that again later in the show because it's that good. I might play it one time every show for the rest of the time until someone tells me if I don't stop playing it, they're going to fire me.
Or OC just gets mad at you, too.
Or OC gets mad at me, which is probably more likely to happen. He'll probably go then tell the higher-ups to then yell at me because he knows I won't listen to him.
A.K.A. James Peterson.
Yeah, OC's always mad at me, so that's inevitable. But it's so good, and with that Southern twang, it's the best thing going. So it's going to be hard to beat that. But I read an article. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but the Lions-Packers game, Coach Matt LaFleur, sorry, anytime I read, I believe it's French, I'm guessing.
It is French.
I have to read it like that because the French are so, uppity a little bit. Anyways, I don't know if you saw the little fan interaction. There was a report about it. The Coach LaFleur was asked about it, but basically he got into a pregame verbal altercation with a fan. And the Lions confirmed to ESPN that the team has revoked the season tickets. A TV camera caught the end of a heated exchange between LaFleur and Fahad Yusuf, a Lions fan from Farmington Hills, Michigan, who was part of the group holding a giant flag for the national anthem last Thursday night. LaFleur could be seen yelling at the fan, but said his actions were provoked. Quote, I've never been a part of something like that, LaFleur said after Sunday's 34-31 loss to the Lions. He was talking junk to our players, giving them the throat slash sign. You're trying to de-escalate it, and then he gets in my face. I thought it was pretty unsportsmanlike. I've never seen that. I've been on many fields, and usually they police that much better. I thought it was an arrogant fan that wanted to get in a part of the action. I would like to see security or something step in there and get him out of there because he shouldn't be doing that. Yeah.
No, I agree. And it kind of reminds me of when the whole World Series thing was the Yankees fans.
Yeah.
Their World Series tickets taken away.
Yeah. Well, listen to how poorly this Yusuf guy took it. He confirmed the team's decision to the Detroit News and said he was, quote, devastated by the move after being contacted via email. Quote, the biggest gut punch, man, Yusuf told the Detroit News on Thursday. Just waking up and seeing that email and not being able to talk to somebody in person, it was a terrible feeling. I don't have my chance to give my side of the story or anything. This has been my identity my whole life, and it's just ripped away from me over a small incident. It definitely could have been avoided on my end. I would let the Lions know I'm so sorry that I embarrassed the team. Like, this really wasn't my intention. I would apologize to anyone and do anything I could to get back in the stadium supporting my team. Two thoughts on this. One, If your whole identity is your favorite football team, I would try to get another identity. It can be part of your identity, but your whole identity, I would think that he has like a mom and a dad or a brother or a sister or an auntie or an uncle or a grandma or a grandpa or a son or a grandson or a niece or a nephew or something. That should be more of your identity than the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, it's like part of my identity is like my favorite sports teams, and part of your identity is your favorite sports
100%.
teams. But you also have like your life. Like,
exactly.
You're a radio host. I'm a producer and a sushi chef.
And I have a family, and I like to do crossword puzzles and Sudoku puzzles, and I like to read the comics. I like the newspaper and the radio. I'm old school like that. Yeah. I like the snow today. That's part of my identity, that I like the snow. So anyways, that's number one. Number two, I hope that the Lions give him his season tickets back. Now, I don't know specifically what happened, but based on what I read, just doing and I know they've taken the throat slashing gesture out of sports. You get like a technical for that if you do it in basketball, or you get a flag if you do it in football. I get it, but that's not the end of the world. And even if he was talking smack to the players or whatever, fans get rowdy like that. Fans are talking smack to the opposing team all the time in the stands. Now, I know it's different when you're doing the holding the flag ceremony. I get it. He was out of line. He admitted it. He apologized. But it's not like he threw a can of beer at somebody. It's not like he, gave death threats. From what I read, it wasn't anything like that. I mean, maybe you could say the throat gesture is a death threat. I wouldn't really see it like that. So I hope, especially if this really is his entire identity is the Lions, and he's obviously apologized, I hope that they give him his season tickets back.
Yeah, I do too. And his apology was pretty good. Like, I embarrassed my team. Yeah. Or I guess I embarrassed the team. My favorite team. I'm very sorry that I embarrassed you.
He said, I would let the Lions know I'm so sorry that I embarrassed this team.
Exactly.
And he said, it could have been avoided on my end. It was not my intention. I would apologize to anyone and do anything I could to get back in the stadium supporting my team. So I hope that the Lions let him back. And I wonder how that works. Like, is he banned from the stadium entirely, or did they just take his season ticket? Like, could he now buy tickets and still go to a game?
Yeah.
I think it's a little overblown. Obviously, anytime a coach voices something afterwards, and especially when cameras catch it, then it's going to get – I'm sure little stuff like that happens all the time, but once it gets caught on camera or a coach actually addresses it in the media, it's going to get a little overblown. So let's hope that our guy gets his tickets back.
Yeah, and it's going to get attention because he got caught on camera.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the only thing I was going to say.
Yeah, for sure. All right, coming up, top of the hour, Sarah Todd, Deseret News, Utah Jazz beat writer. We'll talk about tonight's game, Suns Jazz. If you're in the building, I'll text James in the commercial break, our formidable program director and sometimes producer. I will text him exactly where we're at. I don't know if you know where we're at, press related or whatever, but he told people yesterday to come by and say hi. So I will be in the building. I got seats because, let's just say I may or may not be wearing some orange tonight. You know what I'm saying? Charles Barkley, when I was a kid, I loved me some Suns. Jazz, second favorite team. So anytime the Jazz are playing anybody but the Suns, I'll be rooting for them. Unless you want me to root against them because you're trying to get a better pick. Maybe that'll be the first question that I ask Sarah. All that coming up in the second of 3 hours. 1 hour in the books, 2 more to go. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah filling in right here, ESPN 700. Welcome on into the PM portion of your day. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah filling in right here. ESPN 792.1 FM. If you want to be a part of the program, you can. Z-Rob, remind me in the break to pull up the text line on here. I don't have the login credentials, or maybe it's here on the screen. Anyways, we'll figure it out. But if you want to text in, I will read your text messages over the airwaves. 877-353-0700. Again, 877-353-0700 is where you can text in. Let your voice be heard. You can also call in at that number, and I'll put you right on air, assuming you get past Z-Rob. So you're going to have to bring it. If you got something that's not worthy of hitting the airwaves, you got to get through the Guardian first. But if he patches you through, you will get on the airwaves right here on ESPN 700. So, to begin the show, I had some curiosity. One of my favorite books as a child, Curious George. Always getting into trouble. Had these ears that stick out like I do. I loved me some Curious George. Mischief, Curious George. So I was curious. With all this hoopla surrounding Bill Belichick, most would say greatest NFL coach of all time, or you could just say greatest coach of all time. Some might say Saban, but that's college ranks, a little bit lower than the NFL. Went to North Carolina, sort of shocked the world with that. And so I got to thinking, Coach Witt was close to retiring, or at least it was up for debate throughout the year, and then he did his Michael Jordan I'm back announcement. So he did come back, but let's say that he didn't, and let's say Bill Belichick had not taken the job at North Carolina, and that you were hearing rumors about Bill Belichick going to Utah as the new coach. How would you feel about that? And so I put it up on the poll. If Coach Witt stepped down and Bill Belichick was still a free agent, would you have wanted him as coach of the Utes? Your options were A, yes, give me the GOAT. B, no, zero experience. I voted on it, and I am definitely in the minority. And I was wondering if it was going to be closer to 50-50. It is not. It is a landslide on no, zero experience. 82% to 18%. Okay, well, now I know how you feel. Again, so maybe my bro, too, out in Michigan is not crazy. The only North Carolina fan that I know who is not excited about this. Apparently you guys wouldn't be either. I'm floored by that. Now, it's a little bit different with Utah because Utah, well, not the past 2 seasons, but prior to that has had a lot more success than North Carolina. So for North Carolina, how much worse can you be? For Utah, it's a little bit different. It's a much more reputable program. So I can see it being a little bit more lopsided, but still, I'm shocked. It's not like Bill Belichick started off in college, did a terrible job, then went to the NFL, had a bunch of success, and now he's coming back to college. We've never seen him in college. But we have seen him in the NFL be great. So I get that they're different things, but we've talked a lot about how much college is becoming like the NFL. And if it is becoming more like the NFL, and if this NIL and the transfer portal is a lot like free agency and figuring out the salary cap and where you can slot guys in, and he was the GM and the coach, remember that, in New England. Why would you not? I'm surprised. Are you not shocked, Z-Rob, by 82%?
No, not at all.
You're not surprised?
No.
So you as a Ute fan wouldn't want Bill Belichick either?
No, I mean, here's the thing. All right, I know this is hypothetical and everything, but
yeah.
Whittingham has created a legacy with Utah. Yes, he was at BYU for a bit. We all know that, but that guy is competitive, and he was not going to go out like that at all. Like, yes, Morgan Scalley's in waiting, and I think that's why a lot of people voted no.
Yeah, but this hypothetical is as if Witt had stepped down.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's Bill Belichick or, Scalley, I guess. Or assuming, I guess in my hypothetical, both Witt and Scalley are not up for it. So it's Bill Belichick or any other coach that is available that would want to take the job.
Right. And some people want more of a future instead of just like a rental coach,
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. But I think that this what the program wants to do is something that's more younger, that has a future, and how that can affect the program in its own way.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit surprised. I got to be honest that it's that lopsided. I would have figured it would have been a lot closer than that. But, whatever. What are you going to do? I'm glad that I put it up there because I thought if I had to guess, this would have been the last of my 3 guesses. I would have guessed, yes, bring on Bill Belichick. Who doesn't want a huge name like that running your program? I would have thought that would have been one. And then I thought it might have been 50-50. That would have been my second guess. And then my third guess would have been that it would have been lopsided, saying no way.
Yeah.
Don't want him.
And maybe people were under the impression that Morgan Scalley was still becoming the coach, so they didn't know it was hypothetical. But
yeah, I mean,
which is fair. Which is fair.
That could play into it for sure.
And Morgan Scalley has created a name for himself in that program. There is no doubt in my mind. That man played for the team as well.
Yeah.
And then now he's coaching one of the best defenses in the nation.
And also, you got to factor this in too. This is a possibility. Maybe it's because it's already been done and they know that they can't get him, so they want to act like, oh, we didn't want him anyway.
Right.
I mean, that could be it.
That could be it too.
All those different things go into it. Again, I just feel like the potential of the ceiling of what you can get from Belichick as a coach, and I think he's going to do a great job, and especially after doing more research and doing more reading, and, the press conference was on while I was on air yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to see it until after I was off, but he looked like a little kid. He sounded like a little kid. He said this is a dream come true, that he wanted to do this. And remembering that his, one of his idols in terms of coaching is Paul Brown of the Browns, which probably a lot of people listening don't really remember because he had a lot of his success before they were even calling it the Super Bowl. But he won a national championship as a college coach. So part of him wanted to do what his idol did. But not only that, he spent this entire year, first of all, coming off of Thanksgiving, having a healthy helping of humble pie, not only parting ways, I think that was a push out by Kraft in New England, but then also wanting the Atlanta Falcons job and not getting it. So spending an entire year, I mean, I'm sure he looks like sometimes he's having fun doing the Manning cast or going on with Pat McAfee or doing whatever ESPN duties that he's been doing. I think that he's having fun doing it, but he's a coach. He wants to coach. So knowing that he spent a lot of his time up in Washington, not just hanging out with his son, but sitting in on meetings, watching how the whole transfer portal, NIL, watching how that whole system works and how it operates and taking notes and apparently having a 400 to 500 page Bible of what his game plan is, what he's learned, what he's planning on doing. A lot of that, to me, makes it seem like he's the kind of guy where I think that anytime he puts his mind to something, anytime he's focused on something, that he's not gonna, half bleep it. He's not gonna dog it. He's gonna go all in. Now, whether or not that winds up in terms of some sort of success, I don't know. But I do know that he's gonna give it his all. He's the kind of guy, you hear all those rumors about NFL coaches sleeping in their office. He strikes me as the kind of guy who would almost rather be at the facility than be back home chilling with his family or, whatever, watching Family Feud. So we'll see how it all plays out. And look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's going to crash and burn. But I'll tell you this, if they have a successful season and I revisit this in a year, I bet you that those poll results, which right now, like I said, you can vote at ESPN 700 is the Twitter handle. I've retweeted it at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. And also, don't forget, you can check me out on YouTube, the whole station. Just type in ESPN 700 YouTube, and you can watch me live, do my thing. But I bet you if I revisit that it's not going to be 82-18 if he has a successful season in his first year. And I think you got to give him at least 2 or 3 to like really be successful. But even if they're, if they're a couple of games over 500 and they make a bowl game this year, and then next year maybe they're in the ACC championship game and they lose to, let's say, Clemson or Miami, and then the following year they win the ACC and they're in the playoff, and then I put that poll out, it'll definitely be a lot different than 82-18. But let's hear from Keyshawn Johnson. As Bill Belichick, I think he has at least got the format of what he needs to do. He's at least got an idea of, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that. I've learned this about the NIL. I've learned this about the transfer portal. I've learned that this kind of system works. I've learned that that kind of system works. This is what I need to do in terms of building a culture, in terms of building a winning culture in college. I think he's got all that stuff down in terms of his ideas. But one thing, and James said it, and I agreed yesterday, and it's what you've it is what you will read in every article about it, or see any talking head like me on radio or anybody on TV talking about it, is that who is he going to surround himself with? Now, we know that he's already brought on Michael Lombardi, who has in the past worked with the Niners and the Raiders. He's already brought him in, and I think they full-blown said he's the GM. I didn't realize that we were already that far with college sports that we're calling it a GM, but I believe that he's brought him in under the title as GM. But what else is he going to do with his staff? Who else is he going to bring in as part of his staff? And here's Keyshawn Johnson, never one to back down away from the microphone. He is not known for his cold takes. He's known for his hot takes. Here's what Keyshawn Johnson thinks Coach Belichick needs to do.
And I'm just going to say it. He better hire some black coaches.
Okay, thank you, Keyshawn.
He better hire some black coaches.
Looking a little the same around here.
No, he better hire some black coaches.
Okay,
Because you got to go into the homes.
skepticism about the recruiting.
You got to hire some black coaches. Got to go into the homes and the mamas and convince, not daddy, mommy, and auntie that you're going to take care of this. No, real talk. You got real talk.
You're saying it more directly than I am.
Yo, I get it.
You got Freddie Kitchens, Mike Lombardi, Bill Belichick, and Steve Belichick.
No, it's not. No, you got to have. And he's smart enough, again. I bet that he's smart enough to know that.
I would hope so.
I bet that he's not one guy.
It's 2024, and we can't escape
not one
this
guy coach.
Yeah, not one guy. I think he's saying like not a token black guy on the staff, but he needs to hire black coaches. And I think that that's what he's getting. Look, what he's saying, he's obviously saying it more directly, but it's anybody can watch a football game and you're going to know. I wonder what the percentages actually are. I've looked it up a long time ago, but a percentage of the college football players that are black. Because I get what he's alluding to, that if he's going to recruit these guys and go into their homes. So here we go. According to data from the NCAA, around 48.4% of Division I college football players are black. This means that nearly half of all college football players identify as black. So, yeah, he's saying that they're going to want to feel comfortable and feel familiar. It's not that, look, Pete Carroll at USC recruited his tail off, and he's as white as the snow that I woke up to. So it's not like he has to hire, but, I mean, I get what Keyshawn Johnson is alluding to. And I don't know exactly if he's going to make that part of his criteria or not. But to a larger point, to throw that part out of it, it is going to be important that he hires guys on his staff that are not just NFL guys. Because Mike Lombardi, who I think is a very sharp football mind, if you want to check out, I think it's Pro Football Talk, not Pro Football Focus. Pro Football Talk, I believe. He has a podcast that he was doing, I believe, with Chris Sims, Phil Sims, the legendary New York Giants quarterback, his son, who you see on Sunday Night Football. He's sharp, and he has experience. But, again, all of that is at the NFL level. And as closely as college is starting to get towards the NFL, it's still two totally different animals. So it would behoove him to hire some college guys that have experience recruiting, knowing. I mean, look, Belichick dealt with players that were two and done at the NFL level. So not that far removed from college. He dealt with rookies. But it is different when you're recruiting high school guys versus getting people that have, players that have just come out of college and getting them acclimated to the NFL. So he would be smart to hire some guy, again, doesn't have to be black, as Keyshawn Johnson said. His words, not mine. Doesn't have to be black. But more importantly than the race of the coach or the staff, it's their being familiar with how to go out and get guys. Because that is one of the biggest concerns is, okay, yes, he did it at the NFL level, but it's totally different. He's much older, which means he's separated from younger guys. It's harder to relate. Part of the reason why Pete Carroll was so good at USC is that he had a very childlike attitude to him. He was full of energy. He's on the field warming up, running the sprints with the players. When the quarterback's throwing, he's the one catching, chucking it back. He's doing push-ups. He was doing that in Seattle as well. He was a player's coach, without a doubt. And Belichick, from everything that we saw in New England, even when they were having all the success in the world, did not really come off as a player's coach. So I'm sure he's learned that. Again, the humble pie, not only parting ways with New England / getting forced out, but wanting that Falcons job and not getting it, and then being out of coaching for a full year. If you win 8 Super Bowls, 6 as a coach, 2 as a defensive coordinator, you're going to have some kind of ego, and you're going to feel some type of way that you would think that every other team, not every other team, every single team, well, I guess other than the Patriots because they parted ways, but every other team would want you, right? What other coach has 6 Super Bowls? Or 8 if you include it as a defensive coordinator? None. And nobody wanted him? Now, granted, not all 32 coaching positions were open, but there were a handful, and at least specifically one that he wanted in Atlanta. So that's got to be humbling. But not only that, his last 2 years, the reason why he was sort of forced out or parted ways or whatever in New England. They drafted Mac Jones. They actually credit to Bill Belichick, and especially based on how bad Mac Jones has looked since he left New England, got Mac Jones and his Patriots team to the playoffs. Now, they were one and done, but after that, couple down years, that's got to humble you too. And anytime you get humbled and you don't have the success that you're used to, you're going to take a look in the mirror. And I have no doubt that Belichick is going to make some adjustments, not only because he's going to college from the NFL, but also because it wasn't all, whatever, Skittles and rainbows and unicorns towards the end. So when you don't have success, you take a look in the mirror, and the best coaches are the ones that change. You could have been successful doing it one way. I mean, look no further than right here in Utah. Coach Witt had success doing it the way that he had been doing it. And he could have just said, look, it's either my way or the highway. I'm the greatest coach this school has ever seen. But instead, he did not. He goes, look, something's got to go. Something's got to give. And what did he do? Totally changed half of his team. The entire offensive side of the ball is totally revamped and totally uplifted. It got a complete facelift. And the other side, he doesn't need to change because the defense hasn't been the problem. So we'll see. Again, if it was my school and, I'm an adopted Ute, but a Cal Bear at heart, if you told me tomorrow that Bill Belichick was the head coach of the Cal Bears, I would sign up for that every day of the week and twice on Sunday. I'll tell you that right now.
Hey, Cal didn't have a bad year at all.
Did you? First of all, I went to College Game Day, which in Berkeley time is like 3 a.m. It starts at 6 a.m. Wait, no, 6 a.m. Right? What time does it start on the East Coast? 9 o'clock. Right?
No, 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. So it was like 5 a.m.
5 a.m.
Yeah, 5 a.m. Berkeley time. I was there, and I went to the game, and they blew like a 4-touchdown lead with like 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. It was disgusting. I actually didn't even wait to see the entire comeback because I knew it was happening. It was like watching a car accident in slow motion.
Mm-hmm.
I just got out of there before the final score, which they inevitably did, and then I beat traffic, and it was fine. But
There you go.
they didn't have a horrible year. You're right, Z-Rob, but they were not good. The last time they were good, I was there. It was when wonky Aaron Rodgers was there, Deshaun Jackson was there, Marshawn, I'm just here so I won't get fined, Beast Mode Lynch was there, Justin Forsett. We had tons of talent, and I think one of the years we only lost one game, but they have not really been relevant or good since then. But, yeah, so if you told me that going into next year, Bill Belichick is the coach of the California Golden Bears, I would sign up for that immediately. All right, coming up at the bottom of the hour, let's go back around the NFL. Again, I wanted to sort of get the pulse of Ute Nation, if you will. And I wanted to know, would you have wanted Bill Belichick? And boy, did you guys punch me in the face with no, too old and zero college football experience. 82 to 18%. 82% to 18% last time that I checked. I'm a little shocked it's that lopsided. But I wanted to know about that. And then, of course, the other major story of the day, and we played a little bit from Ryan Clark, but just a very, very, very bad look, would be putting it lightly. Last night, Thursday Night Football, Niners-Rams, linebacker Devondre Campbell left the game in the middle of the third quarter, or the beginning of the third quarter. I didn't check the timestamp, but whatever, it doesn't matter. They turned to him when a couple guys, Dre Greenlaw, who had fought back so hard to come back, and shout out to him for coming back as quickly as he did, and D. Winters were both dealing with injuries. Coach Shanahan went to Campbell, said, all right, need you in there, and he said, nope. They asked Shanahan why after. He said he didn't want to play today. And I'll give you more of the reaction. I gave you some of the reaction from Ryan Clark, former safety of the Steelers, on Get Up on ESPN earlier. And I gave you the quote from Shanahan. But I'll give you some of the quotes from the Niners players. Some of them held back because they didn't know all the details. Some of them didn't care to wait to hear about the details and sound it off. So we'll do that. Much, much more. Again, you can vote on the polls at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports, Twitter handle at ESPN 700. You can always text in 877-353-0700. We'll do that next as we've hit the halfway mark right here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Up. Welcome back to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down. ESPN 700 coming up at about 12:45. Fun in the 40s. We call it the fifth. For all you Dave Chappelle fans out there, if you have not seen the Dave Chappelle Show before, some would say he went crazy. Some would just say that he didn't like the circumstances under which he was operating in Hollywood. When he got like $50 million, I believe, he walked away from a large chunk of $50 million and went to Africa. But prior to that meltdown, or whatever you want to call it, according to him, he didn't go crazy at all. He just didn't like what he was being told to do by executives in Hollywood, which I can understand because I've heard some crazy stuff about that. But point is, he had I think there was 3 total seasons. 2 of them were absolutely phenomenal. If you have not seen I'm sure you're at least familiar with Dave Chappelle, the comedian, the stand-up comedian. But if you haven't seen his show, it's amazing and you should watch it. And if you have seen it, then you'll know what that reference is of the fifth. But the fifth here is fun in the 40s. We will do that at about 11:45. But coming up right now is the news of the day. It is on my television right now, and that's my guy Herm. Herm, who joined me on Wednesday, he's sounding off on it right now. It is the Devondre Campbell fallout. You just don't see stuff like that. I asked Z-Rob in the beginning of the program, I was like, can you remember a time? Can you remember?
I was literally thinking about that song.
Yeah. I can't think of a time outside of Antonio Brown when he was on the Bucks. I forget what happened. Either he was trying to go in the game or they wanted him to go to the game. He didn't want to go to the game. Something happened.
I remember they were playing the Jets. That's probably why you were thinking about the Jets.
Ah, there you go. Yeah,
I remember the green end zone. I'm like,
yeah.
Maybe he's talking about when they played the Jets.
He took off his helmet, took off his shoulder pads, took off his jersey. He was basically half naked from the waist up, started doing jumping jacks, went to the end zone, like threw his hands up to like get the crowd riled up or whatever, and then ran into the locker room, and that is the last time you saw Antonio Brown on a football field. Outside of that, that guy's full-blown crazy. I don't know anything about
his tweets.
Devondre Campbell. Oh, no one, he's not doing that. Do you think he's doing it? I think someone else.
That's some Antonio Brown.
Oh, yeah, he's got
activity right
I
there.
can't even say the stuff that he does on his Twitter account on the airwaves.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
But if you feel like going down that rabbit hole, check out Antonio Brown's Twitter handle. He's got weird stuff all the time. I forget what they call him. It's something like he jokes about CTE.
He does. It's weird.
I forget he's got a catchphrase for it where he I don't know, CTE crazy or something like that. He's got some like catchphrase that goes along with CTE, which he should not be making fun of.
Nope.
Because I wouldn't be surprised if he was actually suffering from that. But that's not the case here, at least as far as I know. I'm sure more details will come out. But in last night's game, a sloppy, ugly slog fest, whatever you want to call it. No, slugfest is, well, yeah, it could be that too. Sometimes I associate slugfest like that Rams-Bills game where it was like
that was a shootout,
45-42. But I guess it could also be a defensive battle.
Yeah.
But regardless, an ugly 12-6. That's right. Not 12-6 because one team went for 2 or one team missed an extra point. 12-6 because it was all field goals. 6 field goals. The Rams had more, beat the Niners 12-6 on the road, essentially for all intents and purposes ending the Niners season.
Hey, remember that poll you sent out on Tuesday? The shootout or close game?
Yeah.
Yeah. Literally just what happened.
Yeah.
Rams go from a shootout to a defensive battle, basically.
Yeah, it was ugly. And that's probably why that poll came back, give me a shootout, because that game was like an affront to football, 12-6.
Reminds me of the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Rams and Patriots.
Yeah, again, that I told you, I think that's the only Super Bowl I ever fell asleep at. But anyways, in that game, 49er linebackers Dre Greenlaw and D. Winters were dealing with injuries. Greenlaw, it was his knee. It was his first game back coming off of his Achilles that he tore in the Super Bowl. And for D. Winters, he was dealing with a neck, like a stinger. Regardless, Coach Shanahan called on Campbell to go into the game. And from Kyle Shanahan's mouth to your ears, quote, he said he didn't want to play today. And teammates and coaches were fuming after the loss. Shanahan said the plan was for Campbell to enter the game after Greenlaw had departed because he was dealing with some knee soreness. It was also his first game back, as I mentioned. But after that, and this is more quotes from Shanahan, people notice, but when someone says that, that's somebody who doesn't want to play football. That's pretty simple. I think our team and myself, we know how we feel about that, so we don't need to talk about him anymore. When he was asked whether or not Campbell would be released, Shanahan said simply, quote, we'll figure out something, end quote. Other guys did not do it so professionally or politically correct, if you will. Specifically, George Kittle, who was frustrated that he didn't know about it. He said, I'm one of the team's leader. I would have liked to have known about that so I could have intervened. But he didn't get a chance to do it. And Kittle said, quote, it's one person making a selfish decision. I've never been around anybody that's ever done that, and I hope I'm never around anybody who does that again. Those are strong words, and I can't emphasize enough that 9 times out of 10, players will get the other players back. And the last thing that they're doing is calling for another player's job. They take it that seriously. You won't hear a guy saying, I hope he gets fired, or I hope he gets cut, or I hope he gets demoted. They usually always have each other's back. But not when you quit on the team. Not because it was a family emergency, not because he was sick, not because he was hurt. Just chose and decided he didn't want to go in the game. You're going to lose everybody when that happens.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
From the text line 0196, Vontae Davis quit on the team at halftime.
Yeah, I think there's more to that story. I remember that he not only quit, I believe he retired. But I think that was concussion related.
I think so too. But I
so
mean,
that's a little different.
Still kind of
in
the mix. But
also from the text line from the 801, some guy helping me out. What I was trying to figure out about Antonio Brown. Yeah, he called it CTESPN. I knew it was something with that. So get it, CTE. And then ESPN, so CTESPN. Yeah, that guy's out of his mind. But yeah, you can't compare the Davis. They were twins, right? Were they twins or just brothers? It was
who? Vernon Davis and Vontae Davis?
Yeah.
No, they're brothers because Vernon Davis is retired before him.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, you can't compare those two things because I believe it. I know he got a lot of flack for it. He did literally retire, but that's not quitting. He retired from the game. He's just like, I'm not playing football anymore. And I believe it was based on safety. So that's a little bit different. This had nothing to do with that. So you heard from Kittle, and it's a horrible look. You can't do that. You cannot do that to your team. You just can't. And more quotes from more of his teammates. Quote, he's a professional. He's been playing for a long time. If he didn't want to play, he shouldn't have dressed out. He could have told them that before the game. I feel like that was some sucker bleep that he did. Some sucker stuff, we'll say, that he did. It definitely hurt the team. D went down, and we needed a linebacker. So for him to do that, that's some sucker stuff to me, in my opinion. He's probably going to get cut soon, so it is what it is with that. But that's just, you're going to see it all over the place because you just don't see it. Again, Kittle said himself, and if you can come up with another example, the Davis one is a pretty good example, but again, he did that at halftime, and he didn't just quit on the team. He retired from football. And I don't know the details exactly, but I believe it was something surrounding safety and concussions. And then the only other example, as we talked about, Antonio Brown, who just quit in the middle of the game, took all of his jersey and pads off like a maniac. And it was in New York, wasn't it? Because I remember it being cold.
Yeah,
I don't think it was in Florida. I don't think it was in Tampa.
No, it was in New York.
Yeah, it was like,
believe it or not.
You could see his breath.
Speaking of Florida,
yeah,
we haven't talked about this yet.
What?
OBJ getting released from your team.
Oh, yeah.
Dolphins.
Wah. He's been washed for a while.
I feel like after he tore his ACL
in the
that
Super Bowl,
he's been more like iffy,
Yeah.
He's bouncing from team to team, He went from the Rams to the Ravens and then to the Dolphins, and now he's a free agent, right?
Look, I had the same reaction of finding out that they cut him today as I did when we signed him. Because he's not the old OBJ. He's washed up.
No.
And, I think it does probably go back to tearing his ACL. He did get, he was on his way of winning the MVP.
No, 100%.
I mean, they usually give it to the quarterback, but he was on pace to win Super Bowl MVP.
Oh, yeah. And that combination with Kupp and Odell would have been a little toss-up because Kupp got the Triple Crown that year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, like going from the Giants to the Browns to the Rams and then getting hurt, and then he went to Baltimore and the Dolphins, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Pretty much. So, yeah, whatever. That was kind of a ho-hum.
Yeah.
Kind of a ho-hum headline. The Dolphins still technically in the hunt, but I think they're going to be in a position where I'm rooting for a higher draft pick.
Yeah.
Kind of the position I think Jazz fans are in. It's like, I do want it. The problem is with the Dolphins, unlike the Jazz, is the Dolphins were all in, right? They got 3 draft picks in that trade with the Niners. The Niners traded up with the Dolphins. They traded them 3 first-round picks for the Dolphins, I believe, second or third overall pick to get Trey Lance. And they turned it into Tyreek Hill. They already had Tua. They turned another pick into Jalen Waddle, and they turned another pick into
Bradley Chubb.
Who
has not played a game this year, by the way.
Well, yeah, he got hurt late in the year last year.
Yeah.
The Dolphins were decimated by injuries. They had the AFC East wrapped up and then choked it to the Bills and then had to go on the road. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I will just say the difference is with the Dolphins is that they went all in. The Jazz are clearly rebuilding, which is an instance where you root against them. In the Dolphins' case, they're in like purgatory. They're in the worst possible spot. They're not bad enough to get a high pick, and they're not good enough to make any noise in the playoffs. All right, coming up next, fun in the 40s/50s. We'll go around the wacky world of sports. Bronny James scored how many points? We'll get into that and much, much more. All that coming up next. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His boy Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 700. Welcome back to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His boy Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700. Coming up top of the hour, my favorite number in all of the land is 11. It's because I looked like an 11 as a little kid, skinny and tall. And then when I played JUCO ball, they didn't have 11, so you know what I chose, Z-Rob? Twice 11. I chose deuce, deuce, cut him loose, 22. So anyways, I love 11. I've always loved 11. Not sure why.
My number is 17.
17. Interesting. Why'd you choose that?
Well, okay, so long story short, when I started
super short, because probably nobody cares, but I'm actually curious.
I was playing football. I wanted number 18 because that's my favorite number, and Peyton Manning. By the way, I have the same birthday as Peyton Manning, by the way.
That's tight.
That's tight. But that number wasn't available, so I'm like, all right, 17. It's like it fits me better too.
Oh,
so,
okay. So it was like a consolation prize.
Yeah, so like that's why my Twitter is like @Zach_Robinson17.
Gotcha. All right. Fair enough. Well, yeah, my favorite number is 11, and I'm going to give you 11 players Utah has offered in the transfer portal. How about that? But right now, time for Fun in the 40s. Oh, and of course, we will also update the polls that I am just flabbergasted by. Last time I looked, 82% to 18%, that you people, yes, I mean you people, you Utes fans out there, so good. What's it called? Thunder something?
What?
What's the name of that movie? Thunder, Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that movie could have been made in from like 2020 on. I don't think that movie could have been made, but go check it out. It's hilarious. And that's Robert.
There are a bunch of movies that cannot be made to this day.
Yeah,
They're
for
already
sure.
been made.
But that one specifically, in the role that Robert Downey Jr. plays, I don't think could have been done other than probably the year or a couple after that when it was actually made.
Yep.
But anyways, flabbergasted by the poll results of me asking if Coach Whip stepped down and Bill Belichick was still a free agent, would you have wanted him as a coach of the Utes? 82% of you people said no, too old, and zero college football experience. This is the GOAT we're talking about. And only 18% of you said, yes, give me the GOAT. So we'll update those. You can vote on that at ESPN 700. I'm at Zach Sports, ZAK Sports. You can also text in a lot of people echoing that 82% that I'll read off. 877-353-0700. You can text or call in there, 877-353-0700. So we'll do that. And 11 players Utah has offered in the transfer portal. And also, I'm efforting my guy, Robert Littall from BSO. He does a fantastic job. He's one of the best follows on Twitter. First of all, he's kind of like the TMZ Sports of the Twitter world. Any off-the-field stuff that you see, he's kind of like Fifth, fun in the 40s or the 50s. All the stories, all the wacky, crazy stories that are tied into sports, he covers better than most. And he watches all the games. He's got great commentary. He's a big fight guy. He can do pretty much everything. So we'll effort him as well in the final hour of the program. But right now, this caught my eye. As flabbergasted as I was by the poll results and all of the, I don't want to call it hype, but all of the attention that Bronny got kind of rubbed me the wrong way, I got to be honest, because it was a clear example of nepotism. Bronny James would not have gotten drafted. He made sure that the Lakers drafted him in the second round. I believe he also made sure that Bronny got a guaranteed contract. They did the whole photo shoot thing where they were both on the court at the same time, and it was the first time in NBA history, and Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr. went courtside to the game. It was a cool moment, I'm not going to lie, but it seemed very forced, and it was not an instance where he got what he earned or deserved. He got it because his dad is LeBron James. And kudos to him, he handled it well. I don't know how I would have handled it one way or the other. Part of me would have been like, no, I only want to go on merit. Like, I want to get drafted because I deserve to be drafted. I don't want to get drafted because of my dad's accomplishments. I want to get drafted because of mine. And then the other part of me is like, okay, it was super cool. And it's not like he's getting a ton of playing time just because of LeBron. And they did send him to the G League. And I saw this and I'm like, okay, Bronny, showing some signs. I don't know if he has the physical stature or just the God-given ability to be even a role player or an above-average player in the NBA. But this caught my eye. Now, granted, it's the G League. But he got his highest scoring output of his young career last night. The Lakers rookie scored a game-high 30 points. And not just checking it up. Efficient shooting, 13 of 23 from the floor, as his South Bay Lakers fell to the Valley Suns 106-100 in Tempe, Arizona. I believe it was his first road game. The number 55 overall pick in this year's draft added 3 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and a block. He's averaging now 14 points, 3.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists across 4 G League games overall. So, you know what? Kudos to him. And look, I'm rooting for him. I'm not rooting against him by any stretch of the imagination. I hope he goes on to have a very productive NBA career.
I hope so too. You know, it's good to see father-son duo at one point, but
yeah,
being sent to the G League, I think, is a good thing for Bronny because it develops him more as a player, and that's what's going to earn him minutes. That's what's going to say, like, oh yeah, bring him back up. Let's play him some more.
For sure. Just getting some garbage time minutes here and there in NBA games is not going to help him. But
what is he averaging, like 3 minutes per game in the NBA?
I don't know. I just have his stats. I don't know how many minutes per game. I don't even know if you can look up G League stat. I'm sure you can.
Averaging less than 3 minutes in NBA contest.
Oh, in the NBA. Yeah. No, I thought you meant in the G League. In the G League, he's probably getting over 30.
Yeah.
So anyways, I thought that was cool. You know, I mean, at least he's showing promise. He's showing some signs. I'm sure he's working his tail off, and that's got to be a very difficult situation to be in, to be LeBron James's son.
Yeah.
And deal with all that scrutiny, all that spotlight. You saw that with Michael Jordan's kids. They tried, kind of flamed out. Scottie Pippen's kids tried, kind of flamed out. Shaq's kids. It's not easy. It's the exception, not the rule, when you get scenarios like Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr. or Barry Bonds Sr. and Barry Bonds Jr. Those are rare instances. It's not off. You're actually seeing it a lot more in baseball, and you see it in football too. Like Marvin Harrison Jr. for the Cardinals. His dad was a great Colt. In baseball, there's a ton. There's like Dante Bichette, the former Colorado Rocky great. Bo Bichette is good. Who was the pitcher? Thigpen, I think, or Wagner. I don't know. There's if you look up in Cecil Fielder, even though he was estranged from his son, Cecil Fielder's son, I think is junior, Had a great career for the Tigers. I believe he won MVP one year. And yeah, there's just Vladimir Guerrero and Vladimir Guerrero's Jr. for the Blue Jays. There's a lot in baseball, but not a ton in basketball. And so, look, I'm rooting for the kid, and I wanted to share. I've been a little bit negative about him, I would say, just because the whole thing kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Yep.
So I wanted to be fair and give some positivity towards that situation, and salute to Bronny James for dropping his first 30-piece in the G League. Hopefully he develops, and, we'll see what the future holds. All right, coming up, 2 hours in the books, one more to go. Final hour of the program. We're going to chat a little bit with my guy, Robert Littall. I believe he texted me during this segment. And then also my favorite number 11 players Utah has offered in the transfer portal. We will do that and much, much more in the final hour of the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700. Yes, we do. California knows how to party. You got some California love here in Utah. Cali boy got some snow today. Oh, man, that made me so happy. It's all gone now. The sun's out. Welcome on back. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His Cali guy, Zakariah, holding it down right here, ESPN 700. 2 hours in the books, one more to go. Show has flown by. It's a fun Friday. By the way, I'm learning now, Z-Rob, this place is a desert on Fridays. we the only ones working? It's like It's like the on-air people, and then actually that's not true. I did see the Prez. I saw the Prez. Steve is in there, some sales guys, but it's probably what 1/7, 1/8 of the amount of people that are normally here on like a Tuesday or a Thursday.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Anyways,
Still
kinda
Zach.
nice.
Still Zach takeover though.
Yeah, it's kind of like me at OC's house. It's just like I can just do whatever I want, sort of. When the cat's away, the mice shall play.
There you go.
All right, bottom of the hour. We got some games on this weekend. There's some people have taken some guests. I'm not going to name any names. Have taken some time off because there's no bowl games this weekend, but that's not totally true. And we have games on these airwaves. So we'll get to those. Most namely, I think everybody remembers this, that the week before all the stuff, all the chaos begins, you got Army-Navy, and that'll be on Saturday. And so, yeah, we'll discuss the games that are coming up. Look forward towards the weekend. Big NFL weekend. Playoff picture is starting to take form. I believe the Bills have already won the AFC East. That's how pathetic the AFC East is. That's what
Same
happens.
with the West. The Chiefs won the West.
Jeez. Yeah. Well, I mean, the West is not pathetic, though. Chargers are good. Broncos are good.
My Broncos are good.
Raiders are pathetic, yes.
Yes.
So we'll get into that and much, much more. And we're going to get Robert Littall. He's at BSO on Twitter. He's a great follow. He will join me here in just a bit. But before we get to him, I got to pay off my tease. That's what they say in this industry. You tease something before you go to break, hoping that listener sticks around. Then when you come back, you have to pay that tease off, which means I have to discuss what I said I was going to discuss going into the break. And what I said was, not only is my favorite number 11, so I'm going to give you 11 players Utah has offered in the transfer portal because there hasn't been a lot of noise. Now, bringing in a quarterback, that's about all the noise that you really need. But we all know there's 11 on each side of the ball every time there's a snap. So it can't just be about the quarterback. And as we've well documented on this program throughout the week, there's little more than a dozen Utah players that have entered the portal to leave. Now, who are they targeting to come in? And I like to cite my sources, not only because I think that that's the right thing to do, but just in case they're wrong, you can blame them and not me. So it's partly selfish, partly doing the right thing. But my guy, Joe Coles from the Deseret, wrote an article talking about how the transfer portal season is in full swing. My guy Joe says it's crazier than ever since the portal opened Monday. Recruiting site On3 says that he cited his sources. Over 1,400 players have already entered their names into the database. So let's see who the Utes are targeting. These are all the guys that they have offered, I don't know. What do you even call it? Offered a scholarship to or offered NIL money to? Whatever. It just says.
I don't know what to call it.
Well, my guy says here are 11 transfer players who have received an offer from the Utes. I'm guessing that's scholarship and then maybe more so depending on what caliber of the player is. So number one on the list, Ryan Brown, quarterback, Purdue, freshman, 6'4", 210. I've got him by 2 inches and about 15 pounds. Woo! But his 2024 stats, he was a backup QB, 532 yards in the air, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks, 56.6 completion rate, 43 of 76, and he also had 155 yards rushing on 50 carries. So they got a quarterback they made an offer to. Then you got Amari Thomas, wide receiver at a UAB. He had a very productive year. 62 receptions, 670 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So looking to bring in some wideout help. Now we all know about the cornerbacks that have entered. Well, Let's go to Marshall. We are Marshall. Jacoby Henderson, 5'11", $191, 3-star transfer portal prospect according to 247 Sports. He had 50 tackles, 2 picks, 10 pass deflections, and a 72.4 PFF grade, which is pretty darn good. Another wide receiver. Oh, snatching up my people are you Utes now. Naziah Hunter, wide receiver out of Cal, 6'2". He had 40 catches for 578 yards and 5 touchdowns last year.
Dang.
Miami, not the U. Well, we know the U is here, but not the East Coast U. Instead, Miami of Ohio. Cornerback Rayon Strader. He's a sophomore, 6 foot, 182 pounds. Ranked as the number 2 cornerback in this year's transfer class by 247 Sports. He had 53 tackles, 2 picks, 19 pass deflections, and a 74.1 PFF grade. So looking to the secondary big time. Defensive tackle. Wide receiver DT Sheffield, North Texas Junior, 5'10", $170. Caleb Goody, wide receiver, Colorado State, sophomore. Jalen Moss, wide receiver, Fresno State. Joseph Williams, wide receiver, Tulsa. You think that this offense is going to look a little different, Z-Rob? Usually you see lots of linebackers, defensive linemen.
Yeah.
How many wide receivers did I just list off? Now, granted, you're not going to get all of them. This is just the players that they've made offers to, but you can tell they don't want this to be a one-sided looking team where it's all D and no O. That's the most, because I've looked at a ton of recruiting classes for Utah. That's the most amount of offensive pieces I've seen in a long time.
Same, honestly, with wide receivers especially, because I know Utah hasn't really been able to utilize wide receivers. It's been more Mekhi Bernard, Devontae Booker, Joe Williams, Tavion Thomas, all of those guys. And then, it's good to see that receivers are coming in to Utah, and like having the hire of Mekhi Simon, who just got hired, and as well as the Wazoo running backs coach. I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to do that, butcher it. But
yeah, don't butcher it.
Yeah, like there's key pieces to keep an eye out for from these guys that just got hired.
Yeah.
So
and then the 11th guy that I'll list off is Wayshawn Parker, running back out of Wazoo. So maybe that's not a coincidence.
Exactly.
He's 6 feet, 200 pounds, ranked as the number 1 running back in this year's transfer class by 247 Sports.
Another guy to keep an eye out, Eli Sanders, the running back for New Mexico.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, a lot of pieces. And look, part of this is that more offensive players are leaving Utah than defensive players because the offense was to blame, not the defense. So that's part of it. But also when you're going to be focusing more, or not more, focusing more than you have, not more than the defense, but focusing more on the offense than you had focused on the offense in years prior, then you're going to get a list that looks like that. And look, there should be a lot of excitement. I know that it's coming off of a rough year, and you're getting ready for a bowl season that is not going to include Utah. So it's tough to get really excited about it now. But I think as this year comes to a close, next year begins, spring camp into summer, getting ready for the fall, I think you're going to start to get a lot of hype with the moves that Utah has made. And I think everybody is ready for a breath of fresh air when it comes to what you watch on the offensive side. Defense, I don't think anybody wants anything to change defensively. Most notably the end of the year in Florida where they had 2 pick sixes. Keep doing what you're doing, defense. But the offense was painful to watch at times. So it was time for a facelift. And, boy, not much more you can do than going from the quarterback room that you had to going to Devon Dampier, who's coming in with Coach Beck, the offensive coordinator. So we'll see if they can put it together on both sides of the ball. That's what every program looks for, is a complete team. Well, they always say 3 phases of the game: offense, defense, special teams. So defense and special teams has not been the issue. Offense has. Hopefully they turn that around next year. But let's waste no more time than getting to my next guest. I will call him a friend. He and I have sat down and broke bread. He's not just a guest that comes on the show when I'm doing radio in Sacramento or San Francisco or Las Vegas, Nevada or Salt Lake City, Utah. He's my friend. He is Robert Littall. Follow him on Twitter at BSO. He joins the program now. Robert, what's popping? Oh, Robert. We're efforting Robert. Might have to call Robert back.
Oh, no. Robert is here.
Oh, there he is.
Robert was on mute, but Robert is here. Robert still doesn't know how to use technology in 2024.
Yeah, well, I think you and I are similar in age, and believe me, there's nothing my nephews like to do more than to make me feel old. So don't worry about it. We've all been there. I want to start here only because I like things that you don't see every day, even if it's good or bad. In this instance, both instances are bad. But specifically what you saw from Monday Night Football, we've been talking about it throughout the show, and the only example that I can think of is Antonio Brown when he lost his mind in New York playing for the Buccaneers and took his whole uniform off. He was half naked doing jumping jacks in the end zone. But you saw it again last night. Number one, if you have another example that you can think of, please bring it to me. But Devondre Campbell last night, basically, Coach Shanahan said, hey, we got a couple of guys that are dinged up. We need you to go in the game. And according to Shanahan, he just told him he didn't want to play. And then next thing you know, you see him go into the locker room. What do you make of that, and how bizarre is that?
Yeah, I remember it was a Colts DB that did that a little while back, that retired at halftime during the game. I always think two things when that happens. The first thing that I think is there something else going on, personal, something that's going on at home, something that's going on that's messing with your mental health that would just make you say, I'm not playing. And then the second thing is you're just selfish. You're mad that you haven't been starting, and you're like, oh, now you want me, huh? Now you want me to go in the game. Well, I'm going to, show you. And, we you see that kind of type of thing in relationships. You don't really see it as much in sports.
Yeah.
But there's always a second layer to this. It's not as simple as, he just woke up today and decided he didn't want to play after putting on his uniform all day. So what is the second layer of that story? And that will tell you how much Shanahan has potentially lost the locker room, what's going on, or was it just an individual that was having a rough time for whatever reason and just had a breakdown and was like, I can't do it.
Yeah, well, let's actually stick with that because I'm out here in Utah, which doesn't have its own NFL team, so you get a little bit of a hodgepodge, but a large part of the population are Niners fans. And what do you make of that? I know a lot of the narrative, Robert, is that, it's unbelievable. They have this super stacked team, and you look at CMC and you look at, Bosa, and you look at the Samuel and wideouts, and, they have their future quarterback. And so a lot of people are shocked at their performance. I look at it more like I can't believe that they've been able to sustain, what is it, four out of the last 5 years they've gone to the NFC Championship game. So is it just that finally the Super Bowl hangover caught up to them?
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's unusual for a team to lose a Super Bowl and still be able to be at this high level. Mm-hmm. You take the Raiders, for example. It's been, 25 years? 20 years almost.
Yeah.
The Bengals, they lost Super Bowl. You haven't really seen them, bounce back. So it's kind of a law of averages type of thing. I also think with the NFL, probably more than any other league, because there's only 17 games, you simply can't afford too many major injuries. You just simply can't afford too many people, going down. And after a while, no matter how great of a coach you are, the numbers start working, against you. And they're not a great division, so that's not an excuse, for anything. I just think that they're just worn down after that run that you just talked about. The injuries are piled up. People know who Purdy is now. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback, but everybody levels out, I think, at what their max talent is. And I think he's kind of maxed out what he's going to be as a quarterback in the NFL. You can win with him, but it has to be under certain circumstances, which I think people kind of figured at a certain point. There's a reason he was the last quarterback pick, in the draft.
Speaking with Robert Littall, follow him on Twitter at BSO. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down, ESPN 700. Another instance where I believe it is the exception, not the rule, Robert, is there's usually not trouble in paradise when, when it's paradise. When things are going well, you don't normally see these sort of in-house fighting, but you're getting that with Philly. I know A.J. Brown throughout this week has kind of downplayed it, but, one of their teammates came out and said, look, Hurts is trying to work on it. Brown is not trying to work on it. Normally you don't see that when you only have 2 losses and you're in the running for the number 1 seed in the NFC, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, we're old enough to remember Terrell Owens and Donovan McNabb. It's giving me – nobody's in a driveway doing sit-ups, for ESPN. It was a different time, back
that was
then.
great.
But,
yeah.
Now, man, can you imagine that in the social media area?
Oh, man.
The social media area?
Rob, that was that was like an SNL skit. I believe his agent was Drew Rosenhaus. He was he was in the driveway taking questions from reporters, and T.O.'s just sitting there doing crunches. Oh, man. Yeah, he would have been great for the Twitter era, man.
Oh, my goodness. But, yeah, I mean, wide receivers and quarterbacks, this is an age-old time, like, us and our ladies. You know what I mean? You're going to have this kind of back and forth. Hey, you didn't pick up your socks. You left your underwear on the floor. Oh, you're not getting me the ball enough. I need to target. I blame the coach for this, to be honest with you. If you got someone like A.J. Brown who's not shy about, doing that, you got to go in there and say, look, I'm going to get him 5 targets in the first, quarter, kind of calm this down a bit, scheme this up a bit. But it's not unusual for teams like the Eagles to be good and have this discourse. Normally, though, in the playoffs, it costs you. You have to be on the same page. You have to be all together because in the playoffs, you run it up against teams that are as good as you. And if they're on the same page and you're not on the same page, one blow-up can cost you that opportunity to get to the Super Bowl.
What do you make of a guy like Travis Hunter? I can't think of much of a comp. I know there have been guys that have played both sides of the ball, but not at this level. I know that they're saying that once he gets to the NFL, he's gonna pick one side of the ball or the other. But it looks like he's going to land in a situation where if the Jags do get the number 1 pick, they don't need a quarterback, so he might go number 1 overall. Just tell me what you've seen so far out of Deion in Colorado and specifically Travis Hunter, who won 2 awards last night and is a huge favorite to win the Heisman.
Yeah, I don't think he's like the best at either one of the positions. But when you have somebody that say is top 10, top 5 in 2 positions, it does make them very unique. I think it's going to take a coach to really bring out the best, to get the most, out of them. Because I think if you do one, I think you limit, what you can do. I mean, you wouldn't draft a corner by itself as number 1. You probably wouldn't draft a wide receiver as number 1. It hasn't been done in a very, very long time. So you have to have a team and a coach that's creative enough to say this guy can make an impact not on 50 plays in a game, but 90 plays in a game or 80 plays in a game. How can I do that? Because he's good enough to play both sides, but in the NFL, it'll be very difficult to do that, for a full time. I think just watching him play, I think he's a little bit better of a corner than he is a wide receiver. So I think whatever you decide that he's best at, that should be the primary position. And in the secondary position, you use him like a third down. If you use him as a corner, use him as a third down corner. If you use him as a wide receiver, use him as the third wide receiver, the slot wide receiver, or that type of thing. I don't think it's going to be this guy starts both sides all game. I just don't think in the NFL, more games, more physical, more travel. I just don't think the body will hold up. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but I'm very curious. It can go left if it's not with the right team. Let's put it like that. So I hope he does get drafted by the right team.
I see what you did there. It might go left if it doesn't go right. I like that. I see what you did there, Rob.
I'm glad you caught it.
That's why I bring you on. Now I didn't even plan this, but apparently every one of my questions is going to be about a unique or a sort of rare instance. And this, I know, for me and you growing up, the Yankees were, the evil empire. They were the dark side, the dark force. They were always snatching up everybody's players and throwing around money and winning championships. And now that the Mets have by $4 million over the next closest owner, $4 billion over the next closest owner of the Blue Jays, and 4 times $16 billion to $4 billion over the Yankees. The Mets are the new dark side. Getting Soto, how often do you remember a player picking the Mets over the Yankees? And to make it even worse, Rob, putting salt on the wound, is that Juan Soto said, this wasn't me picking like just the Mets over the Yankees. It's that I was looking at which team is most set up for success over the next 15 years. That's got to hurt, Rob.
The Yankees haven't won anything in a long. The Yankees are like the Cowboys and the Lakers.
Yeah.
The name is still there. The money is still there. The recognition is still there. They're gonna talk about it on media more than any other team. But the actual on-field success, that the other teams have caught up. You know, you can play for a Mets, you can play for a Philadelphia, you can play for a Golden State now, and you can be a high-profile, athlete. You don't have to play for the Lakers. You don't have to play for the Yankees. And obviously, you don't have to play for them to get your money. That used to be the other thing. They had all the money. So, yeah, you wanted the most money, you went to the Yankees because there was nobody to outbid them. Well, that's not the case anymore. These other teams got big money. They don't figure out how to do deferrals and all of this stuff like that. And, the only thing I say about that is I wish that when we were in high school, we would have worked on that curveball a little more. Maybe we should have, I would have turned into a switch hitter. And I was just talking about baseball, but I would have turned into a switch. I played a little baseball, but the girls were at the baseball game. That's a football game.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah. Yeah, no, I know. Field Yates had the best tweet. He said, right after the news broke, he said, "Be right back. I got to go wake up my kids and go work on their swing and work on their throwing," because apparently, that's where all the money. Yeah, that's a big contract.
I got 3 girls, man. I might have to have a boy just for that.
Yeah, for sure. Give it one more shot. All right, finally, I can't get you out of here without picking your brain on this. Bill Belichick, the more and more I read about this, the less and less surprised that I am, because I think it took a lot of the world by shock when his name was in there, and then when he actually officially took it, him being arguably, most people would say, greatest coach of all time, as much as it pains me to say it because I hate the Pats. But what do you make of the whole thing? Do you think that he had a healthy serving of humble pie, not coaching this year, wanting that Falcons job and not getting it? He seems like a guy that is going to put his all into everything. What do you make of the move, and what do you think his chances are of being successful at North Carolina?
Oh, yeah, I think he was real bitter. I mean, there were several coaching opportunities last year, and no one called. And then when the Falcons called, they went with a brother. So, I mean, that doesn't happen 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think it was something like, look, the man is 73 years old. I think he doesn't want the pressures of the NFL. I mean, North Carolina, it's a beautiful place down there. I don't know you've been to Carolina before. It's lovely down there. It's a nice place to retire. You're in the ACC. There's a 12-team playoff. There are chances for you to have opportunities to be successful there. And if I had a son and I wanted him to be prepared to go to the NFL, I would look really hard. I mean, this is Bill Belichick. He has the connections. You know that he has the experience. I don't think he's going to have any problem with recruiting, and they got some money down there, so you're going to get your NIL. I think he's going to, make that program. I mean, it's not going to be Ohio State. It's not going to be Alabama. It's not going to be Georgia. But in the ACC, I think they could be Clemson at some point. So I like the move. I mean, and take his little girlfriend down there. I think she can get some graduate courses in now, at North Carolina, probably for free now because they're residents.
Yeah, okay. Everything other than the last thing that you said, I completely agree with, especially with a wide open 12-team field, Clemson not being the juggernaut that it used to be, and him being in the ACC. I think there's definitely a spot for him to be successful out there. All right, Robert, I appreciate your time. Look, everybody listening, go follow him. It's very easy to find him. He's at BSO. He not only has great content on his feed, but he's frequently tweeting throughout the games, and most of his stuff, I agree about 80% of the time. So most of the time I'm nodding my head. Every once in a while I'll throw a retweet out there, but go follow him on Twitter at BSO. Robert, always appreciate your time. Enjoy the weekend.
I appreciate it. Stay strong, Caitlin Clark.
You don't even want to know where he was going with that. Robert Littall. Yeah, see, you have to format your questions and your content based on what time of the day that you're on. Let's just say that if he and I were doing a night show and I brought him on, the content would be, you can get away with more at night. And Robert definitely does not shy away from controversial topics. I kept it strictly professional with my guy. But coming up, bottom of the hour, games to look forward to this weekend, both that we will have on these airwaves that we will be airing, and then also some NFL games. Man, it's starting to heat up. You got battles. Not everything as decided as the Bills already winning the AFC East and the Chiefs already winning the AFC West. Was that all the way back on Monday when we played the he can't keep getting away with this, the Chiefs? They just seem to get away with whatever they want to. So we will look into the weekend as we get closer to the weekend. Coming up next, you're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700. There it is. Welcome back to the program. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His boy Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700. Speaking of a milli, reading this article in the break. Man, very expensive coaching staff the Utes had. I mean, we knew that. But I didn't quite know that it was by far the most expensive in terms of assistants, the most expensive staff. They sent out all the breakdowns of who earned what. And I didn't realize, I remember OC a few shows back, he was talking about, you know, it was within the context of everything, but how to assemble a staff, how to bring in players, a lot of it has to do with money. And so I remember him disclosing that in order to keep his assistants around, they had to get bumps. And I didn't realize that they were getting these kind of bumps. Turns out Utah had the most expensive assistant coaching staff in all of the land. That's every team. I'm a little shocked by that. Are you not, Z-Rob?
I am pretty shocked.
I mean, we're talking more than Ohio State and Georgia and Alabama and Oregon. Yeah, so that's can't come off a year like that having a coaching staff that expensive. You're going to need more wins for, per dollar, if you will.
Yeah, and Andy Ludwig was making a pretty good amount of money.
Yeah, he was. Well. He was making the same as I lost it here. I just had it and I lost it. I was trying to stall. I just had the whole thing broken down right here, and then here we go. Earlier this week, USA Today published a database of how much money all of the college football assistant coaches at public universities in the United States made this year. And the University of Utah had a very expensive staff, at least at the top. Offensive coordinator Andy Ludwig was the 5th highest paid assistant coach in the entire country with a salary of $2 million, while defensive coordinator Morgan Scalley was tied for 8th with $2 million.
Yeah, I think Beck's making the same amount of money as Ludwig is making right now.
Ohio State was the only school to have 2 assistant coaches in the top 10.
Wow.
Buckeyes OC Jim Knowles was the 3rd highest paid assistant at $2.2 million, and OC Chip Kelly was tied with Scalley at $2 million.
Wow.
LSU defensive coordinator Blake Baker was the highest paid assistant in the country at $2.5 million. This data comes following a season in which Utah finished just 5-7.
It's wild. And I remember Notre Dame was trying to buy out Andy Ludwig's contract at one point to hire him. That was like a couple of years ago.
I mean, that's why they got the bumps.
Yeah, that's why they got the bumps.
As Football Scoop's Zach Barnett, another Zach. That gives us 3 on the day, bud.
Zach takeover.
It's the Zach takeover. Zach Barnett observed Utah had by far, this is what I was looking for, had by far the biggest salary pool for assistant coaches this year. It should be noted that private schools such as BYU are not required to disclose this information. But their assistant coaches made a total of $8.275 million.
Wow.
For example, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State was 2nd at $6 million, and Texas Tech was 3rd at $5.3 million. Why am I not seeing Georgia? Why am I not seeing Alabama? Why am I not seeing Miami? Why am I not seeing Ohio State? Why am I not seeing Oregon? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. Like, I'm sure Michigan was up there last year because they had Jim Harbaugh. There we go. I was like spacing on his name for a second, but it's interesting. It's like it makes you think. It's like how much are these like position coaches getting paid too? Oh my gosh! I just look at myself on the stream. I'm like white.
Is it because of the glare or something? The sun?
Sunlight.
Who knows?
But anyway, I was like, it makes you curious on how much these position coaches are going to be making too. It's like how much is Mekhi Simons going to be making? How much is our new running backs coach going to be making?
Oh yeah, but I think that's closer to the lower of the 6 figures.
Yeah.
But still, yeah. I mean, you got a point. Yeah, that's crazy. So, anyways, that was not going to be this whole segment. I just saw that during the break and thought I'd bring that to you. I don't want to mean to be Debbie Downer or anything like that. What I do want to share with you is what you can look forward to this weekend. Everybody thinks, the bowl games are not till next weekend. Nothing to watch. Not true. Or listen to in this instance. The games that we have on the station here at ESPN 700. Tomorrow we got Army and Navy. And unlike other years, two very good teams. And there's obviously a ton of pomp and circumstance that goes around that game. And I don't mean that in a negative tone. My father served in Vietnam in the Army, and so I very much hold the military in a high regard. So I like the pomp and circumstance. So I'm not saying that in a negative tone by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, my grandpa served in the Vietnam. He was on the Air Force.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad didn't really talk about it much, put it like that, before he passed. That was not a topic that I wish I had talked to him a little bit more, but I didn't really want to go into something that were probably some rough memories. So anyways, Army-Navy tomorrow at noon on these airwaves, and then the Runnin' Utes versus Radford, which we've been giving tickets away for, at 4:30, and then the Shootin' Utes, as we had the former Utah Ute women's team coach on yesterday, and she said that she tried to get Shootin' Utes off the ground. I'm going to be a big proponent of that. They're playing at Washington at 7:15. So there's plenty of games. Now, NFL. Big games.
Big weekend.
Big games, and not just if you're in the fantasy playoffs like me. There's a lot of big games. Specifically, we will have Chiefs at home against the Browns. The Chiefs can't take their foot off the gas just yet. Now, the Bills did lose that heartbreaker to the Rams last week, which gave them a little bit more of a cushion, but they still need to lock up the 1 seed. So they'll be playing at home against the Browns. And then Sunday Night Football, as we are the home for the NFL on ESPN. Sunday Night Football, Packers versus Seahawks. That's one of the big games on the docket. How high do you have that up on your list? Have you looked at the slate? Bengals, Titans. Bengals are 5-8. They're a lot better than 5-8, but as Bill Parcells famously said, you are what your record says you are. Commanders, Saints. Commanders at 8-5. Jalen Daniels probably going to be Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
He's having a good year. I don't even know if Derek Carr is going to play for the Saints. That game was probably going to be a snoozer. The biggest, most lopsided game is the Ravens. They are -16 on the road in New York. Well, not in New York. In New Jersey is where they play, but against the New York Giants. The New York Giants are 0-7 at home.
Wow.
They have a very good chance of not winning one home game, and the final game of the year is going to be Giants-Eagles, and the guy that they let walk in the Hard Knocks in the preseason, when they showed the owner of the Giants saying, if he goes to the Eagles, if Saquon Barkley goes to the Eagles, I'm not going to be able to sleep at night. Well, he might break the single-season rushing record in the last week of the season against the Giants.
That would be wild. And Tommy DeVito is starting that game against the Ravens, by the way, not Drew Lock.
Tommy Cutlets?
Tommy Cutlets.
Yeah, good old Tommy Cutlets. Man, they really milked that last year.
Yeah.
In the last season.
Another, not just because I'm a fan, another big game is Colts and Broncos. Because that will determine, because the Colts are right behind the Broncos for a playoff spot. So,
well,
that's a big game.
6-7 and 8-5.
Still, something could happen. You know?
No, I hear you. I mean, that's 2 games back. You're just interested in it because it's the Broncos. So I'll give that to you.
Kind of.
I mean, I could say Dolphins, Texans. Texans are 8-5 and Dolphins are 6-7.
Yeah.
That game is in Houston. Jets and Jaguars. Oh my gosh. If you're trying to get your significant other or your child or a friend or somebody into football, keep them away from Jets Jaguars. They will never watch football again.
My best friend's a Jets fan.
Oh, poor guy.
I know.
I don't know how he feels, but I would bring Aaron Rodgers back for another year. Cowboys Panthers is going to be disgusting. Oh, here's a good one. This is a dandy, possibly a Super Bowl preview. Bills Lions.
Ooh.
The 10-3 Bills travel to Detroit to play the 12-1 Lions. Steelers Eagles. That should be a good game.
That'll be a good one.
And then Patriots Cardinals. Snooze fest.
Yeah.
Buccaneers Chargers is decent.
Oh yeah.
I like watching. I always want to call him Johnny Manziel. Baker Mayfield, same thing, kind of, except Baker Mayfield's a lot better. Bucks at Chargers, that should be a good one. And then, like we said, right on these airwaves, Packers and Seahawks. But yeah, Bills, Lions, and Steelers, Eagles is going to be good.
Yeah. Who's the Monday night slate?
Monday night game, we got a double header. They're doing this so weird. They used to just do it the first game of the year. Now they're doing it like 3 times a year at random times. But you got Bears at Vikings. Bears are 0-6 on the road. Vikings are 11-2 and 6-1 at home. What's that spread? Minnesota by 7. And then you got Falcons Raiders. Rough Monday night.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to be searching for content come Tuesday.
Yep.
I'll be all right. I'll spread it out throughout the week. All right, coming up next, hopefully we check in with Spence Checketts, see what he's got coming up for you for your drive. Not just your drive home from your work day, but from your work week. Happy Friday to everybody. We'll check in with Spence, clean up the polls, all that good stuff coming up next. You're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy Zakariah holding it down right here, ESPN 700. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, holding it down here on ESPN 700. It's time to give away some stuff before we check in with Spence Checketts and see what's coming up on the drive. Keep your radio dial locked, 2 to 6, as you always do. But let's give away some stuff. Holiday season, why not? Speaking of which, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM and the Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers invite you to help those at the road home this holiday season with needed blankets, coats, shoes, hats, and gloves. Drop off donations at any Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer. Visit ESPN700sports.com for dealer locations. Spread the warmth and help others find their way home. We also have a chance to see the Running Utes versus Radford tomorrow at the Huntsman Center. All you got to do is text right now, Utes, U-T-E-S, to 33986. Go ahead and text Utes to 33986. Get yourself some tickets to go see the Running Utes. And, of course, we always have topical trivia around this time. 2 tickets to see Keith Urban in concert, part of his High and Alive World Tour on July 18th of next year at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. Here's your question. Get your phones out. Put in the number 877-353-0700 and text the answer to this question. Keith's people, I don't know if I can just call him Keith Urban's people wanted just Keith Urban fans to go to this concert because they have sent in. Usually we do it something revolving around the show to make sure that you're listening. But no, they said they want specific questions. So today's is, what is the title of Keith Urban's first #1 single? What is the title of Keith Urban's first #1 single? The first person to text that in to 877-353-0700 will win a couple of tickets. We bring on the one, the only Spence Checketts. What's going on, my guy? There we go. Microphone check, 1 2 1 2.
There we go. Have you ever worked at a radio station where, as the host, you cannot control your microphone or the microphone of your guests?
No.
Yeah, this is it's a new thing for
well,
me.
Well, you can on this side.
Well,
yeah.
18 years in the business, and it's something I'm still trying to get used to.
Yeah, when I did my first show with OC in studio, when I came down for the sales party, he had control over everything. So when he didn't like something that I was saying, he would just mute my mic, or he'd fade it down.
Oh, I miss it badly. I miss the ability to do that badly. But maybe one day, you know, we can all dream big.
Where are you on snow? Because I woke up this morning in OC's lovely pad, and I had a smile from ear to ear like I was 7 years old. I was thrilled to see the snow. It's all burnt off now, but when I came in and the lovely Sarah at the front desk, I said, "It's snowing outside." I had a huge smile. She's like, "It's the bane of my existence." So if you live here 365, is it something where that kind of wears off after a while?
So the answer is yes. Yeah. But it just depends on kind of what you're into. You know, if you're a big skier, big snowboarder, you love it and you want more of it. And ultimately, the ecosystem of our state, the tourism, the health of our air quality is predicated on us getting snow this time of year. But 2 years ago, the winter of 2023 was the first time in 20 years living here where I said, nope, I'm not. If this is the deal, I'm moving. We had snow starting Halloween night, and it didn't end until the end of March. It was 6 straight months. So the fact that today is literally the first day I had a shovel, and we're almost to Christmas, I'm okay with it. So I like the snow when it starts.
Yeah.
But as I've aged, I'm less of a skier and more of a golfer. Mm-hmm. So I'm, after about a month or two, I'm ready for it to melt so I can get to Bonnie and swing the club.
Gotcha. Yeah. We got to golf. I'm talking with Paul. I'm trying to go golf with him next week. I'm terrible, but I'm very fun to play with because while I'm competitive and ultimately everything else, golf was the one sport. And when I first started in radio, 12, 13 years ago, the guy told me, he's like, you got to learn how to golf. Because he said, I've gotten more networking and business done on the golf course than anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So I went out and I tried. I live fairly close to a golf course in the Berkeley Hills. It's so hard and so frustrating that it overflowed. Like my competitive nature, there was none left. So I just tossed my hands up. I do work on it. I do get frustrated from time to time. But for the most part, like in basketball, if I miss a free throw, I'm very upset. Mm-hmm. In golf, when I hit a bad shot, I don't get upset because I see some great golfers that look like Tiger Woods one shot and then look like someone who's never played the next. So I don't even let myself get too worked because I have buddies that take it very seriously and they're miserable the whole time. So they love golfing with me because I celebrate every good shot that I hit and I don't care about the ones that I hit poorly.
Yeah, I don't believe you. I
swear.
I think you're lying to me
I
because
swear.
if you're a competitor, it drives you crazy.
Yeah.
But to your point about how hard it is, all you need to know is the greatest athlete, in my opinion, of our generation, Michael Jordan, has said over and over and over, this is the hardest game there is.
It is.
So I never played growing up because I thought it was boring. And I was busy playing basketball and football and lacrosse and baseball, and I thought golf was boring, right? But I think it was COVID that really kind of lit the fire of how fascinating the challenge is, the mental challenges, the focus it takes to stay in the moment for every single shot.
Patience.
And so what changed my view on it is actually, you're a basketball player, so you get this. My old AAU coach is a guy named Dave Cooks. He was an assistant at Duke under Coach Krzyzewski for a while, and he's out of the coaching game now. And he's a paraplegic, so he's a inspirational speaker.
Okay.
And so he's written a book, Paralysis by Analysis. He has started a podcast. And so about, 4 years ago, he reached out. He said, hey, will you hop on my pod? And I said, sure. And he asked, like, hey, are you still playing any ball? And I said, I haven't really played like 5-on-5 full court since I was 28 years old. We were playing in a men's rec league out at Franklin Covey. It's high-quality basketball. It's ex-college guys. The European players would come over and play. And so it was so fun because it was the first time since my freshman year at the U that I was playing competitive 5-on-5. I was loving it. I'm like, man, I missed this so much.
Yeah.
And I broke my right leg.
Oh, that's what happens, Spence.
Right.
I know.
And so from then on out, I've had 3 friends do their Achilles playing pickup basketball. Like men in their 40s who play 5-on-5, you are playing with fire.
Exactly.
And while I badly miss it, like you, I'm a competitor, so I needed that kind of whole filled.
Yeah. And golf
so
did it.
Well, I told him, I said, so I'm not playing basketball anymore, and I've just kind of started getting into golf a little bit more. And I played a little bit growing up once or twice. My grandpa loved it, so we would play with him on family vacations, but I never took it seriously. I never learned how to play. I would just show up and hit a ball, right? And so I said to my coach, I said, I'm just having trouble getting better. And he said, let me ask you something. How'd you learn to shoot a jumper?
Yeah.
I said, I learned the correct technique, and I shot thousands of jumpers. He said, that's how you learn to play golf. Yeah. For whatever reason, that piece of it resonated with me, because if you're a basketball player and if you played through high school and AAU or any level of competitiveness and you're a 5'11" white guy, you better learn how to shoot it. So I shot thousands of jumpers when I was a kid growing up. Because I wanted to be, I think you referenced you wanted to be Charles Barkley. And
I didn't have a choice, Spence.
Well, this was a mental.
I couldn't be Jordan.
When I was here, I wanted to be Stockton. And then we moved, and then I was a Knick fan. And so, number 3, shooting guard, Knicks, John Starks. I'm like, that's my guy.
Gotcha.
So I made a lot of threes, and I got thrown out a lot of games, just like Starks used to, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, I had to learn how to shoot it. That was kind of my superpower. That's what allowed me to compete with better players.
Yeah.
So that clicked in my mind. So I went, and I spent some money on some new clubs, and I took lessons. And I went to the range a couple times a week, and it started to change everything. Because you have to hit thousands of golf balls. You have to learn how to hit different shots. You have to learn how to cater your short game to make sure you're able to scramble, because you're not going to hit it off the tee straight every single time. Then you have to learn how to hit it straighter off the tee and lock in your distances and learn how to hit a flop shot and learn how to lag putt. And now after 4 or 5 years of taking it pretty seriously, I'm down to a 6. I'm a 6 handicap. Yeah, I'm a fine player.
Good for you.
I can get you 78 on a scorecard on a good day.
Wow.
But then I'll have a day where it's a 92, and I'm like, I've never done this before.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so fascinating.
Yeah.
And the great thing about living here is if you live in Salt Lake proper, you're within 4 or 5 miles of a great muni course where you can go play with a cart 18 holes for $40-$50.
Wow.
And that you don't get that very many places.
No,
so we have this
double that.
We have this. Yeah, where I grew up, if you wanted to go play a muni course, it's a 40-minute drive. It's $150 for a crappy course in like Pound Ridge, New York. Right. So it's kind of like skiing and snowboarding. If you live in Utah and you don't ski and snowboard, you are wasting this amazing opportunity. And if you live in Utah and you don't golf, you're wasting an opportunity that people around the country would kill for. So if you end up spending a lot of time here, we'll get you out on the course.
Well, you said at the beginning that you didn't believe me, and here's how I'm going to get you to believe me. You actually answered why you should believe me within what you were saying, is that I've gone and hit 2 buckets of balls and felt like, okay, I've got my pitching wedge dialed in. I'm still not good enough to hit with a driver. I use a 3-wood because it only goes about in between 2 and 250, but it's better that in the fairway than hitting it wherever in the woods.
For sure it is, yeah.
But the reason why I stopped getting angry about it is because of what you're saying, where you can go out and you could be 7 over or whatever, and then the next day you go out and you're in the 90s. So I stopped. Because, like, in basketball, I know like, you always shoot for the back rim. I know if I miss left or right. I get frustrated because I know what I could have done wrong or why I didn't go in. In and out's not, out of your control. But in golf, it's like I was just on the range hitting this perfectly, and now I'm out here and I'm duffing or I'm scalding or, whatever it is. So I just, again, if I hit a great shot, I celebrate like I'm Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
If I hit a bad shot, like I'm totally down with picking up a ball, dropping a ball. That's why the one that I love to play, I always want to say scramble. It is this. What's the one where it's you and a buddy and you just take the best shot?
Yeah, scramble.
Scramble. Okay.
Best ball. Yeah.
Okay. So, that's the one that I like because all I need to do, basically out of 4 shots on average that you have, both coming off the tee and then the 2 shots before you get in and you're putting, I'm good for 2 great shots. So if my buddy hits the other 2 good, then we're good to go.
Yeah.
But if I need all 4 of my shots, I'm not breaking triple digits.
Well, and it's a good attitude to take because the other thing, and you know what? Paul was actually the one that kind of lit the fire with me with this because, I used to get really frustrated. I still get really frustrated. Okay, if I have any friends that are listening, they're gonna text me about telling the truth. I am, honestly speaking, more often than not, I think my friends would tell you that I'm on club throw watch. Okay,
I love those guys.
I am on watch now. I'm a lot better than I used to be because I'll tell you why. What really changed my paradigm as far as playing, like when you go out and play golf, you're there to have fun. You're not there to work on your swing. Yeah. You're not there to work on your game. You're there to have a good time. The payoff for the work, it's just like when you played basketball. The payoff for the practice is the game. The game was the best. Yeah. When you're in high school, you're playing in front of your friends. Yeah. Maybe the girl you're trying to date shows up, and you're like, I'm getting 20 tonight. The payoff for all the work is the game. Yep. And so I would play with all these scratch golfers, and I used to be intimidated playing with scratch golfers. And then the other thing that clicked is when I really started to improve as a player, a basketball player, is when I played AAU with like D1 and pros. Or 5-star.
You rise to the level of the competition.
I'm one-on-one with Shamgod Wells. Yeah. Now Shamgod, assistant coach with the Dallas Mavericks. Now he ate my lunch. But I could go back to New Canaan, Connecticut, and I was the guy.
100%.
That's how you get better. So I started playing with better players, and I noticed very few of them got really upset. Sometimes they would, but ultimately they all said, "Look, if you want to get better," and they point to the range. They point to the range. If you want to work on your game, that's where you work on it.
Yep.
We're out here for 4 hours to be away from home, to be away from work, and just chill with each other and just have fun. So now when I go out and play, it's like my escape from life.
Yeah.
And if I want to get better, I call up the guy that I take lessons from. I'm like, dude, can we get a session in? He'll meet me at the range. And every time he meets me at the range, he notices something, he shifts it, and I start to improve. So it's like everything else, man. It's compound interest, it's reps, it's work. And then your reward for the work is you can go out for 4 hours and have fun with your friends.
Yeah, And to your point about playing with higher level competition, my dad was old school. I never beat my dad in basketball until I could literally beat him.
Yeah,
that was
me too. Me too.
That face, the look on his face was one of the. But when you're going against your dad, my dad was like 6'2", and then I'm going against 5th graders. I'm dominating because I'm used to my dad roughing me up. Anyways, enough of all that.
No, I got to ask you one more follow-up, though. When you beat your dad, was he happy for you or was he mad?
No, he was devastated.
Oh, my dad punted the ball in the backyard. He was so pissed. And I walked in, I was so excited. I told my mom, and she gives me one of these. Way to go.
My mom did too.
And my dad just punted the basketball into the backyard.
Mine was worse because my dad didn't get mad. He was just legitimately sad. Like he realized I can't beat my son anymore. So it was like I almost felt bad after all that getting my butt whooped. Anyways, what's coming up on the drive?
So we're going to do the latest, of course, on the Utes transfer portal stuff. Ultimately, the Devin Dampier news. Does that mean some of his teammates are going to be on the way? Utah football did get a piece of bad news and good news today, so we're kind of lean into that. And then ultimately, I am going to drag myself to the Jazz game tonight.
Okay, cool.
So
you got to text me.
I will. Okay. I will. We'll meet up for sure. I'll be on press row. And so we're going to do a little, because Christmas, New Year's, this is when it's like, okay, what's real in pro basketball, what's not.
Yep.
The latest on, kind of some of the recruiting stuff, the Cooper Flag, AJ DeBancis stuff, because these are the players Jazz fans need to start honing in on. And then now the college football is starting to wrap up. I'm an NFL guy, so we're going to lean into, what's a massive week.
Bills Lions
of pro football.
Spence.
Bills Lions will be great.
Yeah.
I was a little bit disappointed last night. Ultimately, it's like a throwback old school game, and the Rams got it done. Niners preseason favorite along with the Chiefs to make the Super Bowl. They're essentially cooked. So we're going to do a lot of NFL on the show today as well.
Cool. And I was listening to you yesterday. You and Zach Harper, little tough on my Jazz. I was like, because you're not. I mean, look, I love listening to you, but you're not like some of the guys that you see with screaming hot takes. And it's not that you were doing that. You were doing it very reserved, but you were pretty tough on those young boys yesterday.
They're awful. They're horrible. They have horrible habits. They're lazy. They don't do anything well. What do you want me to do? What am I supposed to say? What are they, 5-19?
Spence, I'm not knocking you for saying it. I was just surprised.
Look, I've always felt like if I lie about a product, we have a smart basketball market here.
And you're doing a disservice.
Well, and ultimately, for years and years and years, we had great Utah basketball, great BYU basketball, and great Jazz basketball. Mm-hmm. So if I crack this microphone, and I'm like, guys, the ball movement is amazing. The progress is, and fans are like, what?
Yeah.
People here go to games like we are a cold weather winter city, so the Jazz are like a respite for us.
Yeah.
And when they're this bad, it's really hard to tell a fan base that's used to precision basketball to tell them that this group of players that might have one or two that will be here when they're actually good is excited. They're horrible. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
I would love for it to be different. I love the Jazz. I cheer for the Jazz. My whole life has been with this organization.
Mm-hmm.
But as of now, if you're a Jazz fan, you got to hope some things really fall your way with some luck over the next couple of years. It's already been a 2.5-year rebuild. What happens if it's another 2 or 3 years with no hope?
Yeah.
So part of being media is speaking truth to power and keeping these guys accountable. And I know them. Mm-hmm. I respect them. I understand the job. I know the job they're doing. I get it. And I know that it's hard. But I can't crack this mic and tell you they're close when they're not.
Yeah.
I just can't.
And as two white boys that had to scrap and hoop, two things that are inexcusable. Turning the ball over and not getting back on defense.
Correct.
And that has nothing to do with your talent. That has nothing to do with your roster. That has to do with everything.
100%.
So, all right, keep it locked. 2 to 6. Spence Checketts with the drive. I will see him tonight at the Jazz Suns game. Oh, real quickly before I sign off, because James was telling the people to come see us tonight, so I asked him where we were going to be. So come see us, Section 9 of the Lower Bowl. I'll be the guy in the orange Suns jersey. I'm going to put it underneath my button down. Come out and see us. That'll do it for me. I will be here all next week as well. It is the Sean O'Connell Show. His guy, Zakariah, filling in. Everybody, enjoy your weekend. Signing off from ESPN 700.